end of time.
O'clock.
All right, we're talking about getting demonetized, all right? Because this shit here, pretty fucking graphic.
This is
she
terrible.
gave me some low down on some of the details of this.
This is terrible.
It's pretty fucking bad. Okay.
This is very bad.
Group of 4 dudes running around fucking pulling chicks off the streets and amputating boobs.
Yeah.
Among other
things.
Yeah.
And
some of them living.
Yeah, a couple of them survived.
Yeah.
Which
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that this case isn't better known than it is.
Yeah, early 80s. I never
early
heard of it.
80s, Chicago.
Never heard of it.
And because it's very rare. I mean, we've talked about a lot of serial killer couples and like the dynamic there. This was 4 dudes.
Yeah.
4 dudes.
Pretty bizarre.
You know, there has been some talk about, you know, the one guy being like the mastermind, which I guess was maybe true to an extent because the other 3 were kind of dummies.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were that dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think they kind of all got into it. They said like later they were scared of him because he had satanic powers and blah blah blah. It's just like, you know what I mean? Because so this is also like a satanic panic kind of thing because even though like all the shit that those pearl clutching weirdos like used to say about satanic panic and all these organized satanic groups and they're impregnating women and sacrificing babies and blah blah blah, like none of that is true.
Yeah.
But these guys, but see, this kind of shit is the kind of shit they could point to and saying, see, like there was like a satanic cult. Now these guys, admittedly, they're like in their 20s. The main guy was into satanic shit. And he thought, but like in an edgelord teenagey kind of way. You know what I mean?
He just drawing pentagrams on shit.
Yeah, and like he had like an altar like with upside down crosses in his attic or some shit like that with red walls and everything.
Yeah. Shit, we had red walls in our bedroom for a while.
We did, yeah, they're blue now, but it's like at the old house it was red.
Yeah.
So it's like, ooh, I guess we must be Satanists, right? It was like, not like I haven't heard that before. Not in a long time.
We're like straight out of Amityville Horror, man. It had red, opened it busted open a wall and it was red room in there.
Yeah. I mean, I like red. I like a red wall.
It looked good.
It's my favorite color, really.
Yep.
Other than black, but that doesn't really count. But yeah, so but these guys they were kind of doing quote unquote satanic rituals. But the thing about it is it wasn't like an organized cult. They weren't, I mean, yeah, they were doing rituals and shit, but it was 4 losers.
Yeah.
Doing this crap. It wasn't like a nation spanning conspiracy or anything like that, which is kind of
it wasn't like real people were doing it.
Well, no, well, I mean,
he's a loser.
Yeah, they're real people, but they're fucking losers. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, you do this shit, you're not a real person.
But no, I'm just yeah. I mean, this is subhuman.
Yeah,
the shit that they did to these 4 women, and they don't entirely know how many people they killed. I believe that they were convicted, which we'll get into later because some of the convictions were kind of weird, but a couple of them have been executed. But I think they were convicted of 6, if I'm not mistaken, but they think they may have killed between 18 and 20. Because some of the stuff that they confessed to, like, they never found those bodies and stuff like that. So it's like, so they don't know if that corresponded to some other crime that they never discovered, which is entirely possible. Because, like I said, early 80s. Yeah. So there could be all kind of crazy shit going on.
This kind of shit, man.
This, yeah. I was watching like some shit about this earlier. Like I said, I'm just shocked that this isn't better known because the details of this are like really fucked up.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear more. Jen gave me the basic lowdown, but I've never heard of this case. It sounds like tonight's going to be a good show.
Yeah.
You know, in a fucking macabre fucking way. You know what I mean? I'll probably get mad.
I got mad.
I'll probably get mad.
I watched a bunch of documentaries about this. There's Dan Cummins, my guy, like he did a time suck on this, and I listened to that earlier. Which, like I said, he goes super super in depth. It was like 2.5 hours long, and But, you know, he's a comedian, so he makes it funny. But, like, he has a super, super dark sense of humor, which is good because I have that, too. But you can tell that he's, like, getting fucking outraged by this kind of shit.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know we don't really get this complaint much anymore, but I kind of feel like back in the old days, like when we would do true crime shows, we would get, like, a contingent, like a few comments and say it's like, you know, it's really disrespectful and, like, making jokes about this, these people are dead and all this other stuff. It's like, look, I kind of feel like that's kind of our way of dealing with it.
These
you know
dudes
what I
want
mean?
to be scared. They want people to be scared of them.
Yeah.
If you laugh at them, you're doing the worst thing you could do to them. You know what I mean? You can't get your hands on them. A lot of them are dead. So,
yeah.
But no, you just got to laugh at them because this is some stupid shit. I mean, I'll fuck you up, but there's going to be a reason for it, you know? Not just because you got big boobs. Shit. I'm like, oh, man, some big ass boobs. I put you on a pedestal.
It's like, yeah, there's some nice boobs.
Yeah.
And that would be the end of it.
That'd be the end of it, man. So, can you show me and my wife your boobs? Just say some shit like that.
Okay, that would probably be the end.
That happens.
Maybe that might not be the end of it.
That's happened a couple times.
That has happened a few times.
Yeah.
But
women coming up asking my wife to kiss them. That's happened.
Yeah, that just happened recently.
This happened recently.
Well, that was a friend of ours.
Yeah. That was cool though.
Yeah.
Wish I missed it though, man.
I know. I
That
just told him about it. I thought you were looking, but
no, I wasn't. I had to be looking somewhere else at the time. They were on a dance floor. Yeah, I was like, damn. She kissed me. She did. Damn. Did you get a recording of it? Oh, no,
I was like, no, I wasn't thinking about it.
I get it. She's just warming you up. She's just warming you up.
I never bring my phone into the club.
Yeah.
I was leaving it in the trunk because I don't want to carry it around. I don't want to lose it.
Right.
You know. I like to go dance. I don't want to look at my phone all night.
Yeah, but just driving down, seeing a girl with a nice racket says, "Oh, well, that's it. We're gonna have to take those off." You know.
Yeah, it's
what
just,
are you talking about, man? Yeah, it's sadistic motherfucker.
And it's like, and I feel like he's one of the dudes, like the main, the kind of ringleader guy of the crew. I don't think they know a great deal about his childhood. I'm sure it probably wasn't good. Not that that's an excuse. Although I have heard, I don't know if this is true or not, that he was accused of molesting his sister, which, to be honest,
that checks out.
Would not shock me one tiny bit. Yeah. Like when he was younger. But like I said, I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I care about like defaming him, but you know what I mean? Because he's never getting out, as far as I know. Like he's still in prison. One of them got executed. Yeah. And I'm sad to say, but two of them, I think at least one or two of them got released for various reasons. At least one of them got released. What happened to the other one?
Maybe he didn't do anything directly.
Well, like I said, I kind of feel like there was sort of a tug of war about, because their defense were trying to paint the other three guys as victims of this sort of Svengali-like, Manson-like figure who was like, because like I said, the other three guys were not that bright, so they were kind of maybe trying to say it's like, oh, you know, their IQ was only 75 or whatever the fuck it was, and it's like, so they weren't smart enough to
think their way out of
his, and he was like really manipulative, and like he, you know, and they were scared of him because they thought he had satanic powers and all this other kind of crap. I'm not entirely sure I buy that. You know?
Were they really 75 IQ, or was that also bug?
One of them was, as far as I'm aware, that they tested.
That's pretty dumb.
It is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that when I was watching the Time Suck earlier, like he went into this big long thing about like before he got into the thing about the correlations between IQ and crime.
Yeah.
And he's like, even though there is a slight correlation between criminals and like and lower IQs, he's like, the fact of the matter is that a lot of people have really low IQs and really not that many of them commit crimes. It's like a tiny percentage. So it's like you can't just say, oh, they're a dummy. So it's like they're more likely.
This is early 80s, man. I get you. I'm going to go back to my old mainstay. Leaded gasoline. Contact with fucking lead poisoning.
I don't doubt it.
It'll make you fucking crazy, especially if you're dumb. Dumb and there's something wrong with you.
American Military says, wasn't one of the crew theorized to be a Gacy accomplice? Yeah, because, see, Gacy was Chicago as well and was operating around the same time or a little bit earlier. And, as it so happens, the main guy in this, whose name was Robin Gecht, I think is how you pronounce his last name, he worked for John Wayne Gacy. Because
Oh.
remember how Gacy had that company?
Yeah, well,
So they
Gacy-
kind of speculated that
Yeah.
he might have helped out, or he might have got some pointers, or something like that. You know what I mean?
No, may have been a victim. He may have been a victim. How much I bet?
What do you mean?
How much I bet John Gacy got some of that, and he talked him out of killing him.
Yeah, I mean, that could have happened too.
And then all of a sudden, now he's got a fucking mean streak
Yeah.
because Gacy ran through that ass, and he would torture you. But he did said that he let at least one of them go. And then that guy came back and testified to him on him. He might have been a victim.
Maybe. But, like I said.
Gacy liked boys. If he liked you, he was going to get it. I wouldn't be a young boy around that dude. You crazy?
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Since he killed like 30 odd people.
Yeah. All boys.
Yeah. But yeah, most people, I'm really never heard anybody speculate that. I've heard a lot of people say that he might have, maybe nothing happened, but it's like, that maybe he kind of vibed with Gacy because, hey, I'm a serial killer, you're a potential serial killer, like, you know what I mean? Because then Gacy got arrested in, what, 79, right?
Yeah.
And these guys didn't start their shit until 81, I think, well, that they know of.
I don't remember the name of the guy, but one of the serial killers became a serial killer because his little brother was killed by a serial killer. And he kind of knew what happened to him, and he sat around worrying about that, and eventually he turned into one. When he was a little boy.
I mean, I understand how that happens,
So, yeah.
like you becoming
Kind of become what
your
you fear.
worst fear.
Yeah. And then...
Like, it kind of gives you some kind of sick power,
Yeah.
I guess.
And Dean Coral, he had that guy who helped him get other young guys, before he tortured them badly.
That guy eventually turned on him.
He eventually killed him.
Yeah, that's right. He did kill him, didn't he?
But it could be that guy started off as a victim too, but was too ashamed to say it.
Yeah.
You know, fucking has his way with him, does a big mind fuck on him, but the guy doesn't react to it kind of like the other one. Something about him. He says, I'm going to keep this one. And then he keeps him and turns him into a worker bee.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what happened to this kid. Turns into where he became one.
Yeah. Although I don't think he was a kid, like when he was working for Gacy.
Oh, he wasn't? Okay.
He was in his 20s. So I don't think he was a kid.
He liked teenagers usually.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was a little bit older.
Yeah.
But Oracle said, speaking as someone who works in healthcare, yeah, dark humor is a coping mechanism. And I would argue that it's a fairly healthy coping mechanism. At least I like to think so. You know what I mean? It's not hurting anybody. It's just, you know, you're just kind of saying shit out loud. Everybody's kind of thinking it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just saw that. Like, did Val Kilmer really die? Or is it a hoax? I mean, I saw a bunch of people posting about it. Like, it was Hollywood Reporter and everything. So I guess he really did die.
His health wasn't good.
Yeah, I had heard that he was in bad health. But yeah, that's kind of a bummer though, isn't it?
I think he had alcohol problem too.
Yeah, among other things. Like I said, I'm not like super familiar, but I knew that there had been like the last few years. Didn't they make that documentary about him? Like talking about how difficult he was and
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, Oracle said he is officially dead, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw that at first, and then I was like, wait, is that a hoax? Because every now and then, like, some celebrity death hoax will go around, and I'm just I never believed them at first.
Remember how cool he looked when he played Jim Morrison in that Doors movie? And then
that was a good movie, actually.
Yeah, and he did look like Jim Morrison. And then a couple years later, they showed him, and he was fat and fucking looked like shit. Happened, like, overnight.
Yeah, Oracle said he had cancer, but then, like, he got rid of cancer, but then... Says cancer does a number on you even if you survive it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're never the same after. Yeah. It does kind of ravage you a bit. Yeah, Samantha B said that guy whose brother was snatched, I know my name is Steven, killed 3 women in a national park out west and died of pneumonia. Yeah. American Military said you might be thinking of the Steven Stainer case.
I don't remember what the case was about the brothers.
Which, yeah.
There was one.
And I actually had that in the poll. It hasn't won yet, but it's like I do have it on my list.
Just remember there were 2 brothers. One of them got abducted and murdered by a serial killer, raped and murdered. The surviving brother, it fucked him up so bad that he eventually became a serial killer. Because all he did was just fear that. And he would, like, imagine what it was like to go through that. And then, evidently, that became kind of sexualized over time. to deal with it, and then
I guess.
And then by the time he was a teenager, he was started doing it.
I kind of see
Late
how that
teens.
could happen, but it's like I kind of feel like in a lot of ways my mind works the opposite. Yeah. Like if I had a really good childhood, other than like us being broke all the time. But other than that, it was really good. And like I kind of feel like I don't know, if I'd been abused as a child, I think that would make me much less likely to be abusive.
It's just statistics.
When I was older, but it's but I can see how it could go the other way. Yeah, because you would know what being a victim of it felt like. Yeah. Well, that's why, because when I was a little kid and I kind of got bullied a lot, so it's like I would never bully other people because I knew how shitty it felt, and I didn't want to make other people feel like that.
No, so it was become that.
So it was kind of the same, but yeah, some people do go the opposite way. Like I can see how that could happen, but
if I remember correctly, he started abducting boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
by the time he was by the time he was a teenager.
Yeah.
Late teens, I think.
It's just sad. I mean, it's sad that like I said, and it doesn't excuse it because you're a grown ass person. It's like, you know what I mean? You should.
When his brother got killed, I think he was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And he knew what happened.
Yeah, and that would obviously fuck you up.
Right, yeah.
That would fuck you up. But that doesn't excuse
doing
that shit later on, like after you're a grown ass person.
It's just like a dog that goes bad. You can't trust that dog anymore. You got to put it down. It's like it's the same thing.
I mean, it's shitty, but that's just how it goes.
Yep.
Yeah, CV said Val Kilmer had throat cancer.
Was that what it was?
He was 65.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, CV said how funny and fucked up if Gacy was innocent and it was these assholes. It's a completely different MO. Yeah. Completely different victimology. Yeah. The weird thing about these scumbags is that really their only criteria for victims was female, alone, and vulnerable. They could be a sex worker, didn't have to be though, because some of them weren't. And they liked, the main guy, he liked ones with big boobs. They didn't have to have big boobs, but if they did, that was like a bonus. They didn't care about race or age or anything like that. Like some of them were younger, some of them were older, some were black, some were white, some were Asian. Like it really didn't matter. They just
a woman.
It was just opportunistic. Yeah. Like whoever was around type of thing, which is terrifying. And like I said, sometimes they would just snatch people off the street, like just in the middle of the day. Yeah. They gave no fucks.
Okay, well, we don't have many in there right now. But we can go ahead and start the show. This is what we're going to have today, Brian.
We'll start it up.
Guess serial killers doesn't bring them in like it used to.
Well, I kind of feel like a lot of people are maybe not as familiar with this case. Because I didn't know that much about it. I'd kind of heard of it tangentially, but I didn't really know what it was. But it's kind of crazy to think that you can get 4 fucking people to all do something this depraved. Yep. Like, that you can talk about. Like I said, really the only similar thing I can think of is the Manson family. And that was even... I don't want to say it was more organized. I guess it was kind of more organized. These were just 4 assholes who like to go out in their fucking murder van and just snatch women off the street. It wasn't white, it was red. Okay. But yeah, same principle was the murder van. But yeah, so how you get 4 assholes to, which is kind of scary in its own right. That it's like just one dude can be like, hey, let's go pick up some women and cut their tits off. And people are like, that doesn't sound... Well, you know what? Okay, let's do that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I don't know. This dudes like this to like terrify me, you know what I mean? And the fact that like one of them was that fucked up and the other ones were either that fucked up or were like so easily led that they were just kind of like, yeah, okay, let's do that. You know, what does that fucking say?
So McDuff would do it as when he got out of prison, he went right back to killing women. Killed one when he was a teenager. They gave him the death penalty for it, but then they commuted it to life, and then because of Texas was overcrowding and all kinds of shit, they ended up letting him go. Yeah. Like he was in his early 30s, I think. And he just started hanging out with this other loser, I forgot what his name was, and he was just this kind of like overweight, scuzzy, fucking white trash loser, you know what I mean? I forgot what his name was. And they just ride around in the car and get drunk, and he'd just see a woman and goes, hey, let's get her. And then the first time the guy was like, what for? What do you mean? He goes, let's go get her. What are you going to do with her? We're going to use her up. And just grab her, put her in the trunk. drive off with her. Or they'd fucking put her in the back seat, and he'd be beating on her and holding her down, and the other guy'd be driving. They'd torture her for a while, take her out to a remote area, torture her, beat her up, kill her. And the other guy just was fucking kind of got into it. The other guy.
It's like, hey, this is kind of fun.
Well, I think that dude didn't have much contact with women.
Yeah.
So, I think that was his only contact with women. And I don't think he liked it at first, but he was afraid to go against it, and he realized, well, this is kind of fun. I think that's kind of what...
This is probably the situation here.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like.
I think that's how he was like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was doing. Because he ended up rolling and testifying against him. Even though...
Yeah, that's kind of what happened here, too. But, I don't know. I'm not quite sure where I stand on the shit, because, the guys were kind of idiots, but I don't think they were that big of an idiot. I think they were kind of into it, Maybe they were scared of him. Maybe they didn't want him to think they were pussies or whatever. So it's like, we're going to do all this.
That's the way the other guy was with McDuff. He didn't want to be called a pussy, I guess. They thought the shit was some real tough shit. But fucking McDuff was a big, weak guy, really. He got his ass beat in high school and never lived it down. He was big but weak. He was described that way. Physically weak. So then he just lived to kill little bitty women. If you had to be like under 5 feet, he'd go for it. He'd grab you. Because that's what he could handle.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's the pathology behind. I mean, a lot of the serial killers we've talked about, they almost all have issues with their moms. They don't like their mom bossing them around, I guess. So they have issues with insecurity about their masculinity, is what it is. Ooh, we got a super chat. Yeah, thank you very much, the Shaby. Nice to see you guys. We actually don't know anything about these guys. We're excited for this.
Yeah,
we're driving now, so won't be chatting much. So we'll send a super chat now. Okay. Thanks for the great show again. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is gonna be. I've heard some details. This one's fucking gnarly.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know why this isn't better known, because I was like listening to the details of this, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, why don't you? This is awful.
Yeah, it sounds like something that somebody made up, that it didn't happen. But this did happen.
Yeah, if they made a fucking movie of it. Actually, I'm surprised there's not a movie about these assholes.
Yeah. This is up there kind of with the Toolbox Murderers.
Yeah, it's kind of what it reminded me of. Yeah. Even though, like I said, it's hard enough to get two scumbags to do the same shit and be like, hey, we're simpatico, let's go torture some women. Mm-hmm. But to get four of them to go along with it.
Yeah.
And none of them says anything, and they're all kind of into it and stuff. It's like...
He set up a wolf pack mentality.
That's crazy.
They were bonding together over the shit. The wolf pack.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's probably what it was.
They were having power over women. Because they probably didn't normally have it.
Probably not. Yeah. Although, I will add that the ringleader of the group, Robin, was married and had 3 kids.
Damn.
Also abused his wife. Shockingly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if he abused the kids or not.
How old was he?
20s. He's in his 20s.
Okay,
yeah. So, okay. So the first victim of theirs that they found, this occurred on June 1st, 1981. What had happened, there was kind of a scuzzy, kind of drug and hooker hotel called the Brer Rabbit, which is in... I guess it's Villa Park, which is outside of Chicago. And a maid there had said, man, there's been this really bad smell, outside behind the motel, for a couple of days now, and they can't figure out what it is. So she told the manager about it. The manager goes out to this field behind the motel and finds a body. So they call the cops, obviously. Now, when the cops show up, the body looked very decomposed. So much so that you could see a large portion of the skeleton. However, there was still significant maggot activity. They said you don't usually see those two things together, you know what I mean? Because normally, by the time you can see the skeleton, the maggots have already fucked off, you know what I mean? So they thought it was very weird because they thought it looks like, from the state of decomposition, that she's been here for a very long time.
And this was inside the hotel?
No, it was out in a field,
out the field,
behind the motel.
Okay.
there was just like a really bad smell, so they kept smelling, and the manager went back and found the body. So they thought that this woman had been out there for a really long time. Now, she had handcuffs. Her hands were handcuffed behind her back. There was a piece of cloth in her mouth that they had gagged her. Now, she still had a sweater on, and she still had underwear, but they were pulled like down to her thighs. And in one of her socks was a rolled up wad of dollar bills. I think it was like $17 or $18. So they're like, okay, well, clearly robbery wasn't the motive. And when they contacted, law enforcement, like whatever later on, they were like, oh yeah, that's a sex worker thing, like keeping money in your sock like that.
I wonder why they left the cuffs on her.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'd think they'd want to reuse them. Maybe they forgot.
Maybe they got lots of cuffs.
Yeah.
They're like, we get a good deal on cuffs, man. We don't, so just leave them. We got other ones.
Must be.
Who fucking knows? We get bulk cuffs.
I think they forget.
We go to Costco.
I think they're in a hurry to dump the body and they forget about it.
Probably.
We left the cuffs. Oh, fuck it. We're not going back.
Oh, well.
I think it's like that.
I mean, how expensive are cuffs anyway? Like, I don't know.
They're probably $25.
I mean, back in 1981, that might have been kind of expensive. I don't really know.
Yeah.
So, now at the time, it actually took a little while to identify her and to figure out exactly when she had died. They also didn't initially know if this was the spot where she'd been killed or if she had been killed elsewhere and then dumped here. Yeah. They said they thought it was weird, though, that they're like, the body looks like it's been here a long time, but it can't have been here a long time because you guys just reported the smell, like, for a couple of days or something like that. So it can't have been here that long or somebody would have found it. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't, like, super hidden or anything.
Are they saying she'd been dead for a long time before she was dumped?
Yeah, well, they weren't sure at first. Yeah. But like I said, there's a reason for it, which we'll get to. So they take they take her to the coroner, or you know what I mean. Now they searched the missing persons records and everything like that, and didn't really come up with anything. So obviously she had not been reported missing. But they were able to get her fingerprints and her dental records. And so they were able to, within a couple of weeks, identify her as a 21-year-old. I believe she's 21. I've also seen it's 26, but she was in her 20s, named Linda Sutton. And she was indeed a sex worker. She had been arrested a few times, which is why her fingerprints were on file. She had 2 kids, but I believe they lived with her mom. Now, according to the coroner, they said even though the body is very decomposed, she's only been dead for 3 or 4 days. They said what ended up happening was that because her breasts had been amputated.
Oh, okay. They need to mention
these huge wounds on there. These parasites had gotten into her body and like eaten the body because she had these 2 gaping wounds on her
parasite
chest.
When she was alive? No.
After she was dead.
Yeah.
After she was dead.
Maggots got in there and started eating her up.
Yeah. So she was like way more decomposed than she should have been given the time period.
Skin had been compromised.
Yeah, because they said there was 2 huge.
Okay, but she had a sweater on, so they put a sweater on.
Well, I don't know if the sweater was on or if it had been pulled up or something like that. They just said that those were the clothes that they found on her or near her.
Okay.
I know that the underwear, because I did see one of the, like, part of one of the crime scene photos, I believe it was. But, like, the underwear was kind of halfway down her thigh.
Forced mastectomy was the cause of death?
Yeah, well, she'd also been raped, obviously, quite severely, and just beaten and stabbed, multiple things.
So it was a bunch of stuff.
It was a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. And then she was just dumped behind this motel.
Will we eventually get the story of what happened to her? Did they ever say what happened?
Well, she basically just got picked up and that happened to her. You know what I mean? Like I said, we'll kind of get into
it later. Right.
So, a little while later, and I'm not sure, this crime here, I don't think was one of the ones that they were prosecuted for, but they're pretty sure that they did it because they had a pretty clear MO. I mean, cutting someone's tits off that's pretty distinctive. You know what I mean? Now,
the investigators probably didn't know that at that time, though.
Well, no, because at this point, it's June '81. That's the first body that they found with both tits cut off. And, you know, obviously that's fucked up. They didn't know for a long time that it was 4 dudes, because why would you?
Yeah.
You would just think it was one fucking
one crazy
sicko.
dude, yeah.
Right? They actually didn't find out until someone survived and said, hey, it's like 4 guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah. So they didn't know that at first. So the next one, and I don't know if they've ever identified this woman, actually, because a couple of their victims were not identified. This was a woman, I don't think she was a sex worker. She was like, she was a waitress or something, and she was 35 years old. And she got abducted, like, while she was going to her car in February of 1982. What they think happened, because her car didn't have any gas in it, they thought she had gone to her car and then just, like, shit amount of gas and then, like, went somewhere to get help. And then she got abducted. They said her keys and everything like that were still... Like, the keys were in the ignition, like, her purse was still in the front
She's
seat.
not identified?
Everything like that. I don't think so. They did find her later, like, her body, they found her, she was naked, and they found her, like, down this embankment, like, not too far from the road. She had been raped, she had been tortured, and had been mutilated. The thing about it, though, was that when they found this body, they said, don't report in the media that one of her breasts, it was usually the left breast was what they would, the first victim was both of them, but some of them they do both. Most of the time it was the left one. So her left breast had been amputated, and they said, but don't tell the media that, because we want to, like, keep there's no copycats, and if we catch somebody, like, you know, that we need that detail. So they didn't tell anybody.
I wonder why that one was only 1, but it's mostly 2. Could it be that if you died, they gave up?
I don't know.
Well, so what did the survivors say? Well, we'll get at that later, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because that's the only thing that tracks with me.
Yeah.
Is that if you died, they just went, fuck it. She's not around to experience it, so there's no reason to take the other one. Something like
because
that.
As far as I'm aware, they cut the tits off when the women were still alive.
Yeah.
They didn't cut them off.
Well, we're gonna get to that. Don't spoil that, huh?
Don't spoil it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something.
It's pretty fucking weird. I didn't think of it.
Like when I said it, like, because I was listening to some documentaries about it earlier, and like when they described it, I was like,
some fucked up shit.
Like my whole body just went like, oh my god, because I could imagine.
Right.
I can't imagine, and a couple people they did that to lived.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't fucking imagine, like, what that would feel like. Holy shit.
It's like an extreme version of some kind of Japanese fucking BDSM fucking breast bondage. You'll see, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah.
It's messed up. So, a few days after that, like I said, we're in February of 1982 at this point. They found another body. This was a Hispanic woman. I don't believe she was ever identified either. She actually had an engagement ring on. She had been raped and strangled. Now, her breasts had not been amputated, but there were bites all over them. And there was seminal fluid all over her body, so someone had jerked off all over her.
How do these women how are they not identified? You knew that the other one was a waitress of some sort. They had her car. Why couldn't they figure out who that was?
I don't know. I just, either that or the shit I was reading about, like, didn't name them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it could just be that. Because these 2 crimes, I don't believe they were prosecuted for.
Okay.
So, but they're pretty sure that, because of the MO, that it was the same group. So, one woman that was identified, this happened in May of 1982. And this was a young woman whose name was Lorraine Borowski. They actually called her Lori. And she was not a sex worker. She actually worked at a Remax office. She was like the office manager or something. Yeah, it's a realty.
Realty, yeah.
Real estate.
Yeah. I remember the name. That's not around anymore.
I don't think so. No, it might. Well,
is it?
I don't know. I remember doing ads for it, but that was years ago.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's still around or not. But yeah, it's real estate. I believe she was an office manager there. And she was either going to her car or she was going to open up the office. I can't remember. But then she was abducted. So she was essentially gang raped. And then the killers took a piano wire, or one of those things you use to cut slices off a chunk of cheese. You know, one of those?
Wait a minute, hold on, what?
You know those things that you use
the little roller with a wire?
Yeah, like the thing that with the wire in between.
Yeah.
They used one of those things,
Mm-hmm.
wrapped it around her left breast,
Uh-huh.
and just
Cut through?
cut it off of her
So they just used the wire.
while she was still alive.
Yeah.
And then one of them just started smashing her in the face with a hatchet repeatedly.
Huh. So that's what killed her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
They say smash her with the face. They didn't
Like-
use the sharp edge.
well, I don't
used
know
the
if they
flat
used the
edge.
sharp end or the
All
flat
right.
end.
Or the back edge, yeah.
But they found her, then they dumped her body, which was similar to where the first victim had been found, but they actually dumped her in a cemetery, which I'm sure they thought was very funny. So, 2 weeks after she was kidnapped and murdered, another woman named Shui Mak, she was Chinese, and she was abducted on May 29th. She was also not a sex worker. She actually worked at I think it was like an electronics company or something like that, and then she also worked at her family's restaurant. What happened with her was that she was in a car with her brother, and they got in some stupid argument or something, and the brother was like, you know what, get the fuck out of my car, essentially, is what he said. And so he thought, I guess he thought, other family members were going to come by there, or they were behind there, so he wasn't, you know what I mean, he wasn't thinking about it, but he basically kicked her out of his car. And, sadly, after that, she was abducted and was never seen alive again.
Off the street, huh? Off the road?
Off the road, yeah. Cause
How old was she?
She was, actually, I'm not sure. Like I
Okay.
said, most of them were in their 20s, 30s. I think
Right.
a couple of them were older. But like I said, they didn't really, I think one of them was 18. But some of them, I didn't see, the ages on some of them. But, yeah. They actually didn't find her for several months. But they finally did find her. She was, kind of partially buried, at a construction site or something. And it had been mutilated pretty much the same way. One of her breasts had been cut off and various other things. So, obviously, at this point, the cops know that it's this is probably the same killer. As I said, it didn't occur to them that it might be a gang of killers, because why would that occur to you? That hardly ever happens. They just thought it was one fucking weirdo, right?
Yeah. They hadn't seen the movie Cobra yet.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's very unusual.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
unusual for, I think I was reading, and I don't know if this is super correct, and I think this is from Catherine Ramsland, who has done a lot of stuff in true crime and everything. She says that 15% of serial killer victims are victims of a team, but that's usually a couple. You know what I mean? Which is not always man and woman. They said about a third of the time it's man and woman, but 2/3 of the time it's two dudes. But this kind of shit is a lot rarer. Like I said, this is almost kind of more, it's not super organized the way a cult is, the way the Manson family was, but it's kind of, I believe the dynamic is kind of similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a way. I don't know. I think this is kind of in between Manson family shit and Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole, or one of those two scumbags that just hung out and or the Toy Box Killers or whatever. It was just that kind of shit.
Those two cousins.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at this point, like I said, they're looking for one dude who's going around just abducting women off the street and, dumping them with their rapes and with their breasts cut off. Either one or both of them. Now, then they actually had a case where a victim survived, because I remember I said two of their victims did actually survive. Now, this woman was named Angel York. And she went to the cops and she said that the killers, she said it was two guys, because that was all that was on that run. I don't know. She said they had an orangish red van. And she said she'd been handcuffed and raped and tortured. And said that they had given her a big hunting knife and made her, like at gunpoint, cut into her own breast. Or they basically said, we're going to shoot you or I'm going to do it, is what the main dude said. So she did it. And she said, when I did it, like the one guy who was, spoiler alert, was Robin, who was like the ringleader, he got super, super into it. Like she said, he went into a frenzy and he masturbated into the wound. And then, like, because he cut more of it off, he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And then, like, he jerked off into the wound and then put duct tape on it and then dumped her out the van.
Put duct tape on it to seal it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. What did he say about that?
I don't know.
She didn't say, you don't have
I don't know. Like I said, if I knew, I would say.
That's weird.
You know what I mean? I only have so many notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if the details were given about what was said. You know, he might have said something to her about it. You know.
Yeah. CB said it was the early 80s. DNA was still in its infancy. Actually, it wasn't even infancy. Yeah. I think the first case that they used even just rudimentary DNA on was maybe 86. And I could be totally wrong about that.
It's funny. They let her go because she obeyed.
Yeah, maybe. Because I kind of feel like this kind of fucking sicko, he was just kind of like, I'm going to make... Well, because we'll find out later that this guy, they know from his wife and from other women that he dated, that he was real big on making them, like, asking them to mutilate their own tits. Huh. Like, hey, would you cut off your nipples? Or, hey, stick these pins in your tits or something. Like, he really got off on it.
They would do it? They would cut off nipple? They would cut off their own nipples?
Well, I don't think anybody cut their own nipples off.
Yeah.
But it was like he would ask them to do it.
Man, that's nuts.
Yeah, which, come on now. Like, I know some people are maybe into, like, sticking pins and stuff and everything like that.
That's common fetish shit, actually.
Which is, yeah. And
like I said, hurt.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not, and it doesn't cause any permanent damage, usually.
I stick needles in myself all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you don't stick them in your taint like fucking, like Albert Fish.
Like Albert Fish does. Although that didn't accidentally do very much damage to him. Just make him fucking miserable.
That's what he wanted, though.
The only thing I've seen
that X-ray of his lower half is amazing.
The only thing that I ever saw about that kind of shit was a long time ago, back in the 90s. Some dude put out a fucking book that had a bunch of black and white photos of him fucking torturing himself and shit. He's a pitiful fucker. He eventually died from something that he did to himself. He had taken a bunch of needles and slipped them underneath his nipples and pierced underneath his nipples, and he did it so many times and took a picture of it. There must have been about 40 needles in there, and it looks like there wasn't much flesh holding the damn nipple on anymore. You know what I'm talking about? Because it is circle. I mean, in a perfect geometrical circle, like a pattern of needles underneath there.
You keep doing that, you're like fucking...
Yeah, and it was lifted up off the skin, and I was going, damn, how's that getting blood?
Oh,
but he didn't lose it. I guess he pulled them all out after he took the photo. That was some weird shit. It was him and his girlfriend, and he was just torturing himself. She's taking pictures of it. And it was like, they were like showing it like bondage art. He was doing weird shit, man. He'd fucking hook up the hose to the fucking faucet, put it up his booty, fucking turn the hose on.
Clean myself out.
She's taking pictures. Yeah, just feel, all kinds
coming out of his mouth.
But I saw the book in the bookstore. Regular, it was in Nashville. It was in the Army, like a regular fucking bookstore.
Yeah, they got shit like that.
They had shit like on. It wasn't super graphic. Well, I guess some of it was because he's torturing his heart on and shit, wrapping wire and shit around it. I was like, ooh, everything is pain, piercings and shit.
Which I get it. I know some people were into that.
Yeah, but evidently he did something and killed himself accidentally. But I think it was something kind of like erotic asphyxia, something like that.
Well, see, that's
is how he died.
That's where you went wrong right there because
you
really get into like auto asphyxiation. Eventually they're gonna find your ass hanging off the back of a door.
Yeah, auto asphyxia. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was doing. I think he was choked himself to death. If I was jerking it and fucking then lost consciousness and couldn't unfucking choke himself. He died, hung himself basically.
Well, yeah, like I said, that's happened.
That happened to Kane.
That's happened lots of times.
Yeah, what was his name? Michael. What was that dude's name? Dude played Kane. Michael Carradine. David Carradine.
David Carradine.
David Carradine. Yeah.
Yeah.
David Carradine. hung himself
Didn't
while jerking off.
didn't that happen to Michael Hutchins too from NXS? Or am I thinking of a different dude?
I don't know.
But like I said, I would never do that. Like, I don't think I would get off on not being able to breathe anyway.
I don't think it's the breathing, it's they're cutting off blood flow.
Well, yeah, that too. But I'm just saying that it's just kind of like, I don't think that I would get off on that because I'd be like,
You definitely wouldn't want to do that by yourself.
Yeah, this is not fun for me. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever trust another person enough to like not fuck it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I definitely wouldn't do anything like that by myself, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's supposed to be a euphoria. But that's what
I'm sure it's not worth it.
What's his name? The dude that fucking killed all those gay dudes. The gay dude that killed, was it Bauer? What was it?
Baumeister?
Baumeister, yeah.
Herb Baumeister.
He was doing that. He was doing that to other people.
Yeah, he was really into like choking people and stuff. I mean, he killed a lot of dudes, but he would do that sometimes without killing them too. And he would have them do it to him because he really liked it too. Like I said, it can't feel that good. Sorry, I'm not risking it. I don't even want to know. Like I said, it just can't be. It can't be worth it. It just can't. But I guess for some people it is. But yeah, I don't want somebody having to find my fucking dead body like that. That's awful.
Is that drink gone?
I could probably use a bit of top off. Yeah, CB said the lead singer from NXS died from a stranglehold. Yeah, I thought he had. Hey, side quest here was here.
Oh no, you gotta finish that because I got.
Well, I can't drink all that at once. Why don't you just
I'll
refill it?
I'll pour it out. I'm not gonna put Dr. Pepper in that.
Oh, that's right. We gotta do Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
I forgot.
I'll do Dr. Pepper.
CB said, Tom, did you ever see the video of the guy that stuck a glass bottle up his ass and it broke that killed him?
No, I heard about it.
I heard about it too.
I heard about it. Actually, the dude I was thinking of, he didn't die. That was a Russian guy. It wasn't a bottle. I heard about it because Wang was talking about it. He put a jar up in there. Remember, it broke while I was in it.
What on earth would possess you?
Yeah, no. And he was married, you know. He just had an anal thing. He was a straight
Which
guy.
I get that, but it's just kind of like, holy crap, dude. See, that's what happens when... I'm a very sex positive person, okay? And it's just like, I'm a big advocate of not kink shaming or anything like that, but I kind of feel like it's on a spectrum, just like everything else is. You know, if you're an adult and it's your body and you are willing to do that for pleasure and you understand that you could fucking die from it, then I guess, no one's gonna stop you. But I don't know, man. It's like, sex is nice and everything, orgasms are nice and everything, but it's just kind of like, I just don't see how it could be worth it. I don't know how it could feel that much better, that it would be worth like fucking dying over or having broken glass inside your asshole. Like, why would you do that to yourself? I don't know. But yeah, so that's the kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm a little salty because I was like reading about this case today and thinking about him like squinching off these women's boobs with a fucking piece of piano wire. And it's like, and I was trying to imagine, because that's how I do. I was trying to imagine what that would feel like.
With the wire?
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, and then just like, no, and you'd still be alive. I mean, hopefully you would pass out at some point because from the pain. But,
Nah, I don't think he would pass out.
I mean, well, some people would.
Well, you had people that survived it. What'd they say? Did they give any information?
No, not that I know of. But...
Right, yeah.
Well, one of them did pass out, but I think they gave her pills. Like, they made her take a bunch of pills. Like, she thought they were going to kill her, but they didn't. But yeah, so at this point, like I said, they're looking for somebody that's doing all these, because they're like, this has got to be the same fucking person. And as I said, you have this one woman that survived and said that they had made her cut her own breast, but they just let her go. Maybe because she did it.
That's what I was thinking, because she obeyed. Maybe they just let her go.
But he jerked off into the hole. He jerked off into the wound.
Tried to get her boob pregnant.
Who does? Like, who even thinks of that?
Got some fucking weird fucking fetish, man.
You know what's crazy? Okay, because you know how...
See, here's the thing. If he killed her, then she wouldn't have the baby. In his mind.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Now, you're pregnant now. Go ahead, go.
I will note that, I don't know if you guys know this, but, because we're... we know, like, way too much about sex dolls, probably. But there is...
I'm friends with the guy who makes them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a subset of sex dolls that you can fuck the titties.
Yeah. There's a lot of those.
So it's pretty common.
It's an option called penetratable nipples.
Yeah, like they have like really big nipples and areolas, and you can stick your cock in it.
Yeah, it's dudes that have breast fetish, man.
Which, see, if dudes like this would just get those, then the world would probably be a much better place.
Yeah, those dudes those things weren't around during these guys.
No, I know.
You know who I saw making a bunch of money? I saw one of that damn Ukrainian or Russian girl on mini vids where she had like a transgender torso, big boobs.
Yeah.
It doesn't have arms and legs or a head. It's just like a torso.
Yeah.
Big boobs, big ass. And the boobs are penetratable. And she made a video of just taking a dildo and put.
And talking
people
about
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then taking the big dick and blowing it, but you couldn't even put that in your mouth. I mean, the end of that thing was the fucking size of the size of a fucking grapefruit, you know. But that's just dudes were buying that video.
Yeah. So, like I'm saying, I don't think it's like super weird that people have
weird fetishes.
Fetish about I'd like to fuck a tit.
Yeah.
That's not that weird.
Also, we're dealing now with AI generated porn and anime and hentai porn, all kind of coming together, and it's becoming just erotic art. So when reality doesn't apply, some of this shit.
Which, like I said, I think that's better.
Right. So there's not even people sometimes.
Because no one's being harmed.
Yeah.
No one's. You can draw whatever fucked up shit you want to draw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just drawings.
Yeah, drawings and video animation. Some of it's not people. It's like anthropomorphic horses.
Yeah.
From My Little Pony. All of them having sex.
Those are pretty amusing, actually.
Yeah, so there's no people in this. They're just human-like horses.
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't let your kids see
And they're
that.
Cartoons. They're not even realistic. They're purple.
Because there's there's a whole My Little Pony porn thing.
It's just humans are. When you look at the other primates, we're kind of like a bonobo. They're pretty sexual.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm willing to go along with it as long as people keep shit in the realm of fantasy, as long as everyone's consenting and they're not hurting anybody that didn't ask for it.
What I was going to say was we're like a bonobo, but we got a higher IQ and a much better imagination than something like a bonobo would have. So we'd be thinking about just some mythological creatures and fucking just making up weird scenarios that are not possible. And this isn't new. This goes back to ancient Rome.
Yeah.
Back to ancient Rome, they're making statues of satyrs, which is a half male, half man, half goat, having sex with goats. That a beautiful statue of that, and it's out of some story.
I've seen it.
And there's shit in the brothels of fucking centaurs and women and having sex, and so and bulls and women having sex, and
bestiality goes back.
Yeah, it goes way back. Some of that stuff they were doing it in basically kind of like cult religious orgies. They would do that in honor of some god, but they were also high as fuck. They were on drugs.
Well, that helps.
Just we don't know exactly what drugs they were. Where they just talked about them, but they never showed any pictures of what the plant was they were talking about. But so they're probably shit like fucking hallucinogenic drugs. It seems like.
Yeah.
And they had one whole cult that was just nothing but breast fetish, and they had a statue. I forgot what her name was. And she's just a woman. There's boobs all over her.
Yeah.
Just the whole body's like boobs. And the statue is a machine that would squirt milk out of it. Like a fountain.
That's kind of neat.
And people in that temple would go get some of that stuff and drink it and evidently have like rapture. So it was drug-laced.
Yeah.
Drug-laced boob fetish.
So like the Moloko milk bar.
Yeah, Moloko milk bar. Exactly. Exactly. The Moloko milk bar right out of fucking Clockwork Orange. Yeah.
Except those statues just look like regular women.
I still get it.
They weren't all boobs.
Yeah. I'd drink out of that, though. If that shit was giving me some kind of drugs, yeah, that's right. Give me some of that synth-mesk. Adrenochrome. Remember that shit? Adrenochrome.
How many boobs is too many boobs, Tom?
Oh, there's no such thing as too many boobs.
Really? So you'd go...
Boobs are a continuum.
Just a head with a bunch of boobs just everywhere? You'd be into that?
When you look at the statue, you guys
is there a limit?
You could Google it. When you look at the statue, it's not attractive. I don't think.
Not
by modern standards.
You don't want to fuck it?
No, not by modern standards. But you're talking about the ancient Romans, and they were fucking kinky.
They probably
They were kinky, and it was something. It was part of a religion, even though religions in the ancient world were not like, say, modern Christianity or Islam or anything. They weren't really about morality. They were more like nightclubs. They were catering to an experience that you wanted. Some of them involved temple whores, or where you're paying to have sex with young women who are the embodiment of some goddess. We call it prostitution today, but that's what it probably was back then. Just that it was sanctified, and I guess the girl's parents could be proud of her. Oh yeah, she's the embodiment of fucking Aphrodite or something, just that kind of shit. So religion was the main money maker in Rome.
But there's really, I mean, you really don't have a limit to how many boobs?
On a woman?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 2.
Really?
2, yeah.
Okay, but what if she had like 6?
No.
You wouldn't be kind of curious about that?
No, because it fucks up the silhouette.
Oh, okay.
You got to have a nice waist and nice.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I was asking how many boobs is too many boobs.
Well,
how about just 4?
Well, I don't know if you were just talking about how many in porn or how many in on a statue. It doesn't really matter. But if
I'm just saying it doesn't really matter.
If you have 20 boobs in porn, that means you got fucking 10 women.
No, I'm saying one woman.
Okay.
How many boobs is too many? Like how many?
2 is enough.
Okay.
3 is too many.
3 is too many?
3 is too many.
Okay, even if she just had one in the middle, you wouldn't
3 is
be
too
just like,
fucking many.
Okay.
You gotta have a normal parameters.
I was just curious because I know how much you like boobs, and I was just kind of like
2.
So I'm just like, so if there was like 2 sets of boobs,
I'm gonna
better?
fucking key y'all in. I have a doctorate in boobology.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and bootyology.
And bootyology. That was your minor.
Boobs are nothing more than a recreation of the booty, except it's on the front.
That's your front booty.
That way you see a booty coming, and then you see another booty going, and males responded to that. Round, there's like a little cleavage. There's like a little where they come together when you push it together and lift them. It's a booty. It's booty. It's the chest booty. And the fucking
and the booty.
The booty. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. So for aesthetic purposes, it has to be even.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, what if you had 4 on the front and 4 on the back? Like, what if you had 4 ass cheeks and 4 boobs? Would that work?
4 boobs might look good if you got 4 arms.
Okay,
like
I'll
an Indian goddess. That might look better.
I'll give you that.
That might look okay. But you'd have to elongate her.
I just like
symmetry right.
Well, like I said, I just wondered because now that you can do like AI and like all that animation and stuff like that, because we watched some like weird shit with like human animal hybrids and stuff, and I was just kind of like, well, at what point you'd be like, nah, I wouldn't fuck that.
Eventually, when humans have mastery of the human genome, you're going to see designer people that might have 4 arms and 4 boobs and look good. But even if they don't have genetic mastery of that, they'll build androids that are like that.
I wouldn't mind 2 extra arms, but only if they were retractable.
They go back to that. Yeah.
I don't want them hanging out there all the time. That would be a pain in the ass.
Well, if you have a winged woman like an angel, that's kind of like having 4 arms because wings are arms. They're just coming.
Yeah, that might be better actually.
Yeah, wings would be better.
Wings would be better.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, wings would be better. You can make a person that has wings and they're like an angel, or you can have bat wings on some of them. They're like a succubus.
I would definitely want bat wings. I don't want no angel wings.
They'd both be cool. depends on what you look like, what you were after.
I need some bat wings.
Yeah. But transhumanism is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, kind of.
It's possible. I still think it's a long way away.
Probably.
You're going to see more like humanoid sex dolls. You're going to see that are AI walking around. That's a lot easier because you don't have to worry about practicality. It's not alive. You can, you know what I mean? So you're not condemning a living person to look a certain way. This is a robot. But you could, have that with wings, like a succubus. I get my succubus sex doll. She walks out. How you doing, baby? You have a whole fucking AI conversation.
That's kind of rad. I kind of want one of those.
Pleasures everybody.
I mean, even after we saw that movie Companion,
yeah.
which was a horror movie.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, man, if they could make like a realistic looking sex bot like that.
Yeah.
I kind of want one.
I wouldn't want one that didn't know what it was, though.
Yeah, that was a little weird because that was kind of that was one of the big things about that movie was that she didn't know that she was a robot.
If I had one, it would know that it was a robot. It would know it would be and it could do more work than just have sex.
Well, yeah, because, I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, you'd want one that could do anything.
Well,
Just like,
well,
hey, go clean the litter box.
Yeah, I don't expect this. I don't expect a sex robot to know how to change the engine in my fucking car. You know, that's
Although you could teach it that.
no. It would just damage itself. It would get oil stained and shit.
That's true.
It's worth too much. You'd have another robot for that. That's a mechanic.
Yeah, you probably have a specific.
But what you could do is something that would be like a sex bot. Is also have her like a secretary, somebody who go get groceries.
She could keep track of all your household
She
shit.
does, yeah, and then she could teach you things, teach the children. She could be a teacher, you know, because they'd have all kinds of access to fucking AI information. Be real useful.
Yeah, I would think.
Because if that thing would cost a lot, sex wouldn't be enough. It'd have to have a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to pay like 20 or however
20, 30. I think
20, 30
when they
grand.
first appear, they're going to be about $60,000, $70,000.
Yeah, you don't want to pay all that just to fuck
just
it.
to fuck it. No.
I mean,
you want it to do other things.
You would want it to do other things. You would want it to like manage your life, essentially.
Help you with stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And do shit that you didn't necessarily want to do. It's like, hey, go do my laundry. Hey.
Yeah, wash the dishes real quick. Put them in the dishwasher.
Hey, sort out like all my meetings for today or whatever the fuck. You know
vacuum the house.
Like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, light stuff, but not industrial work.
Yeah, like I said, just household management.
Yeah.
Type of shit.
Yeah, you have it. It's your secretary.
Yeah, which
Basically.
could also be a man.
Yeah.
A male sex bot.
Gay guys that have male ones.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. It'd be women that have male ones.
Yeah.
Big beefcake motherfucker who's like defense too.
They
could defend you.
I'd probably get it.
Because you have a lot of single women, you know, maybe living in places where they would like a bodyguard and this big old fucking
yeah,
beefcake.
That'd be another good
And you know,
use for
it
them,
can defend you. Yeah.
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 CD said, Tom, you can use AI to see what you would look like as a woman.
Send me the fucking app. I'll check it out. I'll give it pictures of myself throughout certain stages in my life when I was a teenager. Fucking 20. I'd like to see what that. I'd like to see how.
I actually, you know what? Because I have an AI program like that I use just for ads and stuff, and I did one. I put a picture of both of us up in there because you don't have to put a photo. It can just generate something, but you can put a photo that it can work off of.
Yeah.
And a couple of times it seemed like it did like make you into a woman just cause like every now and then it did that.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me into a dude sometimes too. It doesn't really know what it's doing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't ask it to do that. It's just.
No, I'd like to see. I'd like to see what I'd look like if I was a woman. See if I'd hit. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really think about it too much because evidently, according to all the transvestigators that comment on the YouTube video, I already look like a man, so I'm not worried about it.
They haven't seen you naked.
I know they.
That's what.
Well, and they never will if they keep saying stupid shit like that.
Well, they have. They can go buy videos. They can buy the video.
Don't tell them that.
Okay. Right.
Don't tell the transvestigators that they go do that. But yeah, I can prove it. Like no, not that I need to, but you know what I mean. They just. I don't need to do anything. They need to get a life is what needs to happen. But yeah. So, can you imagine? Can you imagine this poor fucking woman, Angel York? She gets taken into this fucking murder van by these scumbags. Make her cut her own tit. Dude jerks off into the wound and he's like, hey, I'm just gonna slap some duct tape on that shit because that fixes everything. And then dumps her out of the fucking van. Can you imagine having to go to the cops and tell them what happened to you? I can't imagine. I can't imagine what that would be like. But yeah, so they probably wouldn't even believe you because that sounds fucking crazy. So, despite the information she gave them, I mean, you know, she gave them kind of a loose description of the dudes, like a loose description of the vehicle, but, you know, they didn't really have a huge amount to go on. You know what I mean? Chicago's a big city. So, it happened that in August of the same year, they actually got another victim, and this was a young woman named Sandra Delaware. I believe she was 18. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Her body, they found her alongside the Chicago River. She had just been dumped there. They had pulled her hands behind her back and tied them with a shoelace. And they had removed her left breast. And they'd also knotted her bra around her throat. When they found her, they thought she'd been dead about 6 hours. The next victim they found was not a sex worker. This was Rose Beck Davis. She was 31. She was actually a marketing executive, and she was just, again, just abducted off the street when she was just doing her regular ass thing. They found her September 8th, 1982, behind like an apartment building, like in a stairwell. And she had been stabbed, raped, and strangled. They found a sock tied around her neck, and her clothes were all messed up. Her face was crushed. I think they found out later it was that hatchet again. There was a big puddle of blood underneath her. And they hadn't cut her breasts off, but there was like a whole bunch of deep cuts in them. And there were also a bunch of puncture wounds like in her abdomen. They found that too. Now here's the weird thing. They didn't know, obviously they wouldn't, because this is a completely different MO. They didn't know this was the same gang, but it was. Almost 1 month after that, after they found her body, there was a shooting of a drug dealer whose name was Rafael Tirado. He was 28 years old. And he had a friend who was 18 named Alberto Rosario. And they were like standing at a phone booth, like talking on the phone. And they got shot in a drive-by. Now, what they found out later, because like I said, of course you wouldn't associate like a gangland, like drug dealer drive-by shooting with a dude like cutting women's tits off, like a serial killer, but it was the same dudes they found out later. I've heard that they got paid to do this, but I don't know if that's true, because I only heard that from like one source. They might have just done it because, why not? You know what I mean? Because they were just looking for people, and it's like, hey, there's a random motherfucker, let's just kill that person. So what they did was they were just driving around. They saw these two guys standing by this phone booth, and they just opened fire. You know what I mean? And one of them, like Rafael Tirado, ended up dying. Alberto Rosario lived, though. Now, this was their only male victim. All the other ones were women. And like I said, it's completely different MO, so you wouldn't think it was the same gang, but it was.
What actually started the shootout?
No, it was just drive-by. They just saw them.
And just shot them up. Yeah.
Like I said, I did see one source that said that maybe they'd been paid, like hired to do that, but I don't know if I believe that or not. That might be bullshit. I think it's more likely that they were just driving around looking for a woman and couldn't find one, and they were getting frustrated.
Shoot those dudes.
So it's like, hey, there's two guys. Let's just shoot those. That'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
Because what ended up happening was that later on that same night, they abducted a woman. So I think they were just driving around looking for somebody to kill.
Yeah.
And they weren't finding anybody fast enough, and so they were like, just kill those people. Because they were just standing there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So at this point...
They were going wild that night. They were wilding.
Yeah, that's
running around
pretty much
looking for trouble, and saw some dudes shoot them up, and then they fucking got away with that. They go, oh, there's one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
CB said, if I was a woman, I would be the biggest slut walking the earth.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think Tom would be the biggest slut walking the earth.
No. I got standards.
You got standards.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, if you are a woman, it's no disparaging to sluts, but it's a lot harder to be a slut because it's like you have a lot more concerns.
Well, you're more at risk.
You're more at risk, so you really have to watch your ass.
You're not really smart. You're not really fucking strong enough to fight off a dude if you choose the wrong one. You know what I mean? He could kill you.
And you never know.
You never know, right?
Because sometimes, like I said, I watch true crime all the time, and it's like, these women like are with this dude for like 3-4 years. They marry them and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, the other side comes out.
Biggest slut right now, actually, Lily Lou, pretty little pig-haired chick. I think she lives in San Francisco. I think, or not anyway, she's so well known she can't go to a normal bar. So and she's married to an older guy. I don't know if they're married, but she's been with him for a long time. He's about my age. They just go to swingers clubs. And she does crazy shit in a swingers club because her husband's with her.
Yeah.
So it's a lot safer.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a muscle guy.
I would never go anywhere like that and do anything like that by myself.
But she's 5 feet tall, man. Fucking, you know what I mean? She's got to have security.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're swingers in an open type situation. But I think they love each other, though, you know. She escorts and everything. I don't know how he could let her go on those things. I'd be worried. But Like, man,
I would also be worried
like
about my own ass.
Yeah, but she'll do gangbangs and all kinds of weird shit. They'll go on pleasure cruises and she'll be blowing people on the fucking nudist within the nudist pleasure cruise and shit, you know. But she's got security with her.
Yeah.
Women will act a lot braver and more bold when they're with a man.
Well, yeah.
Because they can.
Because you got somebody to back you up.
Yeah.
If something goes sideways,
right.
You can be like, you have help. If you're by yourself and something goes sideways, sometimes you don't have any options. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just a regular solo slut, she's fucking limited in what she can do.
Yeah.
The ones that actually do fucking shit, make videos and do crazy shit, and they like it, they're swingers. And they fucking making content.
And hopefully,
they're hot wifing and shit.
and hopefully they're known in the community. So it's just kind of the thing where, like, when we don't do anything super crazy, but like when we go out to the goth club and stuff like that, like
we're around our own kind.
We kind of know everybody.
Yeah.
Or know somebody that knows that person.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like you see the same people all the time.
Yeah.
So you know you know that people aren't going to fuck you over because you see them all the time.
Yeah, and fucking people do shit to us, but we know them.
Right.
You know, I don't even do shit. You know, if we do something like it's not they come fucking us. I'm just saying, I'll be sitting there, you know, and Dr. fucking Michael will come bite my ear and shit. I'm not gonna let some random motherfucking dude bite my ear.
Well, yeah, you're gonna punch him.
I know it's slutty ass Dr. Michael. I've known him for fucking over fucking 10 years. I love that bitch. But he also knows that I could beat his ass. You know what I mean? So there's no threat.
Yeah.
You know, fucking.
That's what I mean. We're not threatened by anybody there because we know them. We've known them for like forever.
Right.
So it's like, you know, people fuck around. It's just funny.
Yeah. The chick making out with my wife on the dance floor, fucking, we've known her for a while. She's been in the scene for fucking 25
she's
years.
She's a bit older than we are.
She's old. She's my age.
Yeah.
She's my age. She just lost a shit ton of weight and had a fucking tummy tuck and fucking breast lift and shit. Her fucking waist is like tiny.
Yeah.
And
they did a good job.
Yeah. She comes here and fucking, I was her personal trainer.
Yeah, she came here to use our weight machines and stuff like that. She works at the fire department.
Yeah, works for the fire department.
And they have a gym, so she uses that sometimes too. Because we live kind of far from her. But
she's getting old. She says, I'm a age gracefully. I'm fighting. And I said, that's right.
Yeah.
So fucking.
That's what we're doing too.
Yeah. Then she's getting big old breast implants. She's going to be a cougar queen.
That's the next thing she wants.
Cougar queen. Fucking.
She's cool as hell. I like her.
Yeah, she's real cool. Dawn's her name.
Yeah.
But maybe one day we'll have her on the show because she says once she heals up from this fucking lift, she's gonna start coming over and fucking doing a squat machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You charge people to use that squat machine, man.
She just pays me.
Yeah.
Every time she comes, she just pays me. I don't ask for money. She just does it.
Yeah, she just slips them some.
Yeah.
Couple bucks or something.
Because advising her on what to do. She wants to go on gear too.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, it's kind of different. It's easier to be a slut if you're a dude.
It's much easier.
I feel it's much easier.
Yeah, much easier. That's why the gay scene is so wild.
Yeah, because they don't have any. They're not worried about it.
They can fight each other. They're not a threat to each other.
Right.
Unless Herb fucking.
That's what I mean. Yeah, or like Herb or Jeffrey Dahmer or John Wayne Gacy or something like that. But they tended to. Yeah. Well, particularly Gacy. He tended to.
Gacy was going for young boys.
Yeah, he tended to target younger that he could overpower.
Yeah, and he'd trick them into putting themselves into handcuffs.
That too.
And that's how he got them. Baumeister would just get into fucking eroto asphyxia, where they would like.
And he's like you, and he would
eventually kill them.
He'd let them do it to him too.
Yeah,
and he would do it to them sometimes and not kill them.
Yeah, he was a sometimes motherfucker. Sometimes
and like I said, and some people are into that, so it's like I can see how if you're into that, like you wouldn't think it was weird, but. Right. I don't know. It's just, to me, it seems like really dangerous. Like I said, because I'm a woman, so it's like anytime you go home with a dude you don't know, that's super dangerous. Like you don't know that person. I've done it, but I wouldn't advise it. Like I was lucky; I didn't have any bad experiences in that regard.
Jen had good instincts. I knew that. That was back.
And I didn't really do it that much. It's maybe only like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, after her divorce.
After I was divorced, I never did it while I was.
Me and Jim were friends then, but we weren't really a thing. We'd hook up every now and then, but we were more like friends than everything else. And I saw the guy she was dating. She pretty much had good judgment. There was one I was like, why that guy? And you kicked his ass out of there anyway.
Yeah, I mean.
But the other one, I thought he was awesome.
He is awesome.
He was awesome. Big dude. Fucking like 6'2", 6'4", maybe.
6'5", he was.
Yeah, and I got along with him real well. He was good. He was a good dude. But he just wasn't ready to settle down. He just got divorced.
He had just gotten divorced, too.
Yeah, he wasn't ready to
That's kind of what we were bonding over.
Yeah.
He was a lot younger than me.
They were a cute couple.
He was a lot younger than me, which I didn't realize when we first went out. But
Yeah.
He said something, and I was just kind of like, wait, man, how old are you? I was like,
as a man, you got to realize you're not the only man out there, and as a woman, you got to realize that that anybody, male or female, can match up with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Now the relationship is not going to be the same because there's a different kind of person, but there's a lot of people that you could have a good relationship with.
Yeah, I don't really.
It's the same thing. Guys have to understand that. Women, all this shit, love at first sight. There's only one love for me, and all, that's all bullshit.
Well, that's
not
little
really the way it is.
defeatist.
Yeah.
Because look, it's like if you meet your person and then it doesn't work out a couple years down the line.
What are you gonna do now?
What, are you gonna be alone forever?
Yeah.
That's depressing.
No, there's more fish in the sea. You keep fucking fishing.
Yeah, you'll meet somebody else. Like eventually.
Jen's mom is a widow.
Yeah,
her
my stepdad died what, like a year ago?
A year and a half ago. We saw her yesterday.
Yeah, we went to Disney with her and my sister and brother yesterday. It was super fun.
And she told us, look, I hope you guys don't get upset, but I got a boyfriend now. And we're like, yeah, cool.
I just thought it was so funny. She
thought you'd be mad. Yeah. He's 2 years younger than me. He's 2 years, and I was like, "You fucking go! I'm proud of you. You proud of me?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I'm proud of you." Hell yeah, he's 2 years younger.
So funny.
And he's one of the neighbors. He's a neighbor.
Yeah, she lives way out in the middle of the woods in Ocala. And like I said, after my stepdad died, I was kind of worried because I was like, man, I don't want her to just live out there in the fucking woods by herself and be all depressed and all this other kind of stuff. But so when we went to Disney yesterday, and she's getting out and about now because it took her a while, like, to get over shit and everything. So, my sister came down from Atlanta. She loves to go to Disney, so it's like she went. My brother was there, and my mom, like, took us all. We had this big lunch, like, all you can eat Thanksgiving food and all this other kind of stuff. And my mom was like, I don't want you to get upset, but I'm going to start dating again. I'm like, what are you talking about upset? I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's from another generation. She's just coming out of an old school relationship with an old school type of dude.
Not to be an asshole, but I was not a huge fan of my stepdad.
The whole family was, all her siblings were not a fan.
None of us were.
I liked him okay, but I understood that he was a very old school.
Very old
school. Like,
I can't deal with it. I can't hang.
Old school, very fucking...
I can't hang with that kind of people.
Straight and narrow type. But he was a businessman, so I did have some kind of rapport with him. We were both salesmen, basically, even though he did other shit. He went higher than that in management. But I understood him, but I couldn't.
I can't hang.
I couldn't hit with
I can't hang. Well, he was very. I can't hang with real. He was super like uptight, conservative, religious. I can't hang with people like that. They stress me out.
He would have made a good boss if you worked under him in a firm.
Ooh, I don't think so.
I think he would, because he'd be
not if you were a woman. I don't think.
No, if you were a dude, he was a hard driving dude, and fair but hard, and fucking he'd push you.
Because I have the feeling
he's one of those kind of guys. He'd push you to sell more.
I had the feeling that he was one of those old school motherfuckers that thought women were like a little bit inferior. I just always got that vibe.
I think he was one of those guys that would say that, well, women are different and they really shouldn't be doing the kind of jobs we're good at. He was one of those.
That's what I mean. He would have thought we were inferior. Like, I always got that vibe, and I don't like that.
Women should be at home raising children.
Yeah, see, I don't like that.
He was old school. Let's get back to the kids.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Let's get back.
Thank you.
They love it, but we got to get back to kids.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that later because I still got a lot of shit to get through. But so they shot a guy like in a gang drive-by, right? So at this point, they bring in the famed Robert Ressler, who, if anybody knows anything about true crime, very famous FBI criminal profiler. Gonna say though, this was fairly early in his career. I feel like he kind of started in the 70s, right? This was 82. He kind of whiffed this one a little bit. I'm gonna say. He thought it was one dude. So nobody knew it was a gang yet. I mean, this one woman said that it was two guys. But he was like, okay, well, this person is uncertain about his sexuality and it may be bisexual and is like ashamed of that, which not really. The main dude, pretty much straight, married, kids, really no inkling of bisexuality at all. And he also said he thought the dude would look effeminate, which, nope.
No.
Nope.
No, he looks like like he belongs in Van Halen or something, if you ask me, from what I saw.
Well, the main guy, he just kind of looked like he doesn't stand out, really.
Yeah.
He's not bad looking. He was like an okay looking, just
He had late 70s hair.
Regular ass dude. Yeah, it's hard to judge because everyone kind of looked fucked up back then because of the hair and everything. But he just looked like a regular, fairly good looking. I could see why he probably wouldn't have a problem getting women. The other three, like I said, you could tell they were kind of slow, like because you could see in their faces were a little bit,
dim.
Yeah, they looked a little dim. But he looked perfectly normal, really. Like, not super good looking, but not ugly. Like, he seemed like he was above average looking. And he didn't look effeminate, I didn't think. So I thought that was kind of like I said, Robert Ressler usually called it, but I don't think he was right in this regard.
He was a serial killer that recruited some guys.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. Which, like I said, is a little bit, it's not unprecedented.
Oh, it happens. Yeah.
But it's very rare. This kind of shit is very
Usually
rare.
A serial killer recruits his girlfriend and gets her into it somehow. But
well, like I said,
shit.
From what I know, in those cases where it's a team, it's only a third of the cases where it's the girlfriend.
Yeah, but
2/3 of the cases, it's another dude. It's another dude. Like his buddy or his cousin or his brother or whatever the fuck. Well, didn't Hillside Strangler, Ken Bianchi, didn't he? That was his cousin, right? Cousin, second cousin? Can't remember. Buono was that dude's name. And they didn't do all of them together, but they did a lot of them together. So, I mean, there's enough fucked up dudes out there that it's like one of them could talk the other one into doing this kind of crap. But to talk 3 other dudes into doing it, that's pretty crazy. So, the same day of the gang shooting, like I said, they did the drive-by shooting because I wasn't there, but I kind of assume that they were driving around looking for a woman and they couldn't find a good candidate. And so they were getting frustrated. And so finally they were just like, hey, there's 2 guys, we just shoot at them. You know what I mean? Maybe that'll make me feel better. I kind of feel like that was the situation. However, later on, that same day, which was October 6th, they did actually find another sex worker, and her name was Beverly Washington. She was 20 years old. And they basically just grabbed her off the street, threw her in the van, mutilated her as they mutilated the others, gang raped her, and then dumped her out. I don't know if they thought she was dead. They did actually cut off her left breast, and they mostly cut off the right one, but not entirely. It was still kind of on there. But at this point, like I said, I think they thought she was dead. So they dumped her out. But she actually survived.
I missed it.
This woman, like I said, this was the same day. This was later the same day as the gang shooting.
Yeah.
They picked up a sex worker, or they actually just grabbed her off the street and pulled her into the van, is what they did.
A hooker?
Yeah, she was 20.
And then what did they do to her?
Basically, they gang raped her, cut off her left breast.
Mm-hmm. With the wire?
And then mostly cut off the right one. Like, they just slashed at it with a knife, like it was kind of just hanging there. And then they dumped her out.
And she was alive.
And she was still alive. I think they thought she was dead.
Yeah.
But they dumped
Passed
her out.
Unconscious.
Yeah, so this fucking woman, she was a fucking trooper. So they take her to the hospital, obviously. And she's kind of out.
How long did it take her to find her?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think pretty much not that long, after they dumped her. But she basically said it's 4 guys. And she gave like a really good description of the main dude and of the truck. Like, she remembered a lot of stuff. And this was actually what helped catch them. Now, she said the dude that attacked her, the main guy, Robin Gecht, she's like, he was white. He was kind of slim. Probably about 25 years old. She said he was wearing a flannel shirt, had square-toed boots on. She said he had real greasy hair and a mustache, like it was brown. She said what happened was he pulled up and he offered her more money than she asked for, I guess. And she said he seemed real nervous, like when she got in. And then she said that he's like, get in the back of the van with me. And he pulled a gun on her. And he made her take her clothes off.
The other guys were there, right?
Yeah, they're all there, just watching. And he made her take her clothes off at gunpoint, and then made her get down on her knees and suck his dick.
Yeah.
And then he put handcuffs on her, and then said, here's a bunch of pills. I'm going to shoot you unless you swallow these. So she did, and she blacked out. And she said before she blacked out, she saw him standing over her with the piano wire.
Yeah.
And she thought that they were going to strangle her and that she just wasn't going to wake up.
Yeah.
But she did. But
she
yeah,
woke up, her boobs were gone.
Yeah, they dumped out. Yeah, one of them. Well, one of them was completely gone.
Damn.
And then one of them was just hanging off. But somebody did find her. She was like, they just dumped her like in a. I don't even remember if it was a dumpster or if it was just by the side of the road or somewhere like that. But somebody found her and took her to the hospital. And she said, the van was red and it had tinted windows and it had a wooden divider. Like, because you know how usually they would have the glass divider behind it? She's like, it was wood. And she said there was, on the rear view mirror, or where the rear view mirror should have been, was like a roach clip with the white and blue feathers on it. You remember how everybody had those, like in the early 80s, everybody had those, they'd clip them in their hair and stuff?
Yeah.
So like they had that, and it was like white and blue feathers. So she remembered shit like really good. And like I said, I think that was like instrumental in catching them. Because only a couple weeks later, on October the 20th of 1982, like, or right around then, the cops saw a red van that looked very similar to what she had described. So they pulled it over. Now, the problem was that the person driving the van did not look like the man she described. This dude was a redhead. But the van looked exactly like she described. Wooden partition, feathers on the fucking shit, everything. Like, it looked exactly the same. So they were like, this has to be the same car. So they asked the driver, they're like, okay, well, what's your name? And he said his name was Eddie Spreitzer. He's like, this isn't my van, though. This belongs to my boss, like the guy I work for. His name is Robin Gecht. So Eddie tells them where Robin lives. And he's like, tell you what, we're going to go to his house and you get him to come outside. You know what I mean? So they did that. When he came out the house, immediately they were like, that is exactly the dude that she described. Like the mustache, the greasy hair, he even had like similar clothes on, like the same boots and everything. They're like, that's got to be him. They said the weird thing about it, though, was that he acted totally unconcerned.
Well, he just thought that they were checking out a possible stolen car. That's what he was thinking. And he's like, no, it's not stolen. I'd loan it to him. That's what he's thinking. Yeah, maybe. Although they probably crashed that, they probably fucking arrested him pretty quickly.
Well, what they did, so later on, they were like, okay, well, that's got to be the same dude. But it's like, obviously, they can't arrest him so far because all they have is somebody say so. But later on at the police station, they showed her a photo lineup. And immediately, she's like, that's him. Like, the picture of Robin Gecht that they showed, there's like, I know that's him. And she was all fucked up. She just had almost both of her tits cut off, right?
And she's still alive.
And she was all assaulted and gang raped.
And and it's only a couple days, right?
Yeah, it was only like, it was either the same day or the next day or something like that. It wasn't like hardly any time.
Not to be crude, she was a prostitute. I mean, they fucking service fucking 10 to 15 clients a day. So she psychologically could handle that. Cutting the boobs off, no.
Well, no, that's not something that happens every day, is it?
Yeah, no.
So,
no.
Yeah. But yeah, but she could keep her shit together. And she's like, that's definitely him. So the cops are like, okay, well now we have a witness identification so we can go back and maybe pick him up. When they went back to pick him up, though, he had already lawyered up.
Yeah.
And they said the thing about it was that he was just very, very calm. He would never admit to anything. They said they don't know if it was just because he was super arrogant or they thought they would never get him on anything or
he's trying to play it off.
Whatever, yeah. But he's like, he didn't seem nervous or anything.
Yeah.
So there was that. Now, they did arrest him, but they didn't have enough evidence to hold him at first. But then later on, they found out that back in 1981, like after they investigated further, that he, that he had rented a motel room along with 3 other guys. They all had adjoining rooms. And the hotel manager at the time said, it's like, yeah, man, we had so many complaints about those dudes. They had like these super loud parties. And he's like, and I thought they were in a cult. That's what the motel manager said. He's like, they seemed very like they were in a cult or something. Yeah, culty. So that kind of like, okay. And then they figured out that the other woman that had survived, they linked all these cases together, and she had also said, remember, she didn't have a great description of the dude, but she described like a red van, and she had been forced to cut her own, that was Angel York, cut her own tit, like with a knife, and, you know, tied up with duct tape and, you know, stuff like that. So they're like, okay, so these two dudes at least, you know, Eddie Spreitzer and Robin Gecht, it's like, so we know at least that they're responsible for those two and possibly all these other ones where these women that have been found with the tits cut off. So they're interviewing both of them. And at first, neither of them saying anything. But then, I think they knew that Eddie Spreitzer was like the weaker of the two. So they kind of leaned on him a little bit harder. And he eventually started to crack. Now, he said they got the idea that he was really afraid of Robin Gecht. You know what I mean? And so they kind of, like I said, used that. So they started, like, leaning on him, you know? And eventually they got him to confess. And he wrote, and confess he did. He wrote out, like, a 70-odd page whole statement of all kind of shit that they did. All kind of shit. What he admitted to was that he would drive the van. Well, the first thing he admitted to was that he had been driving the van when Robin Gecht did the drive-by shooting of Rafael Torado. And they're like, yeah, we remember that. And he's like, and I was also driving when Robin said, we saw this prostitute, this black girl, which I think was the first one that they were talking about. And it's like, you know, pull over and get her. And he described, he said Robin had sex with her and then took her back into an alley and then used a knife, he didn't use a wire this time, to cut her left tit off. And then he brings the tit into the van and puts it on the floor. Now, Eddie said, and I don't know if I believe this, but maybe because I think this was their first victim, actually. But he's like, he was kind of grossed out because it was so much blood and, you know what I mean? He was really upset by it. But he said, what? So Robin brings the tit into the van and fucks the severed tit.
How do you do that?
Like, just like that, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess he's using it kind of like a damn...
Like a pocket pussy.
Like a pocket, yeah.
But it's a tit.
Yeah, weird. It must have been a slit in it.
I don't know.
Or just wrapped it around.
Or he just wrapped it around?
Yeah, that's some weird shit.
Sounds like imagining how that would work.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
I don't know what one cut off looks like. So, probably like a jellyfish.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine.
Right.
This is horrible.
Water fat with
a meat. Horrible. This is
okay.
With
a gland in it. Water fat
horrible.
with gland in it. Skin. Yeah. Weird shit. Now, he killed her, right?
This first woman, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So he removed it after he killed her when she was alive.
I'm not sure in that case.
She must have already been dead.
Because most of the time he would cut them off when they were still alive.
Yeah, with the wire. But he had got his guys with him.
But the thing about it was that he could have done that. Like, he could have cut the tit off and she was still alive, and then he killed her and then left her.
Yeah.
Out behind the motel because that's where she was found. But so he brings the tit back in the van.
Though, was she?
The first one was, yeah.
They handcuffed her. Okay, that's right.
They
forgot to get the
handcuffs.
cuffs off of her.
Right, they found her with handcuffs. Like, several of them were handcuffed. Or they had their hands tied behind their back with other things. Handcuffs or shoelaces or whatever. Now, interestingly, Eddie also confessed to stuff that they didn't have cases to go with. So these might have been cases that were not discovered yet. Because he said there was one time when Robin picked up a black woman. He didn't say if she was a sex worker or not, I don't think. And he, like, shot her and then put chains around her and used bowling balls and threw her, like, in the water. And her body sank. And he's like, and I don't think that body's ever been found.
It sounds like bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, like I said, I don't know because they did a lot of fucked up shit. So who knows?
Bowling balls. How do you attach a bowling ball to a chain?
Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying. This is what he said. Don't ask me. I don't know.
No, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to imagine. My bullshit detector's kind of going off on that one. And it didn't do anything to her sexually?
No, I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying this is what the dude said,
That's what he said
in his confession. And like I said, he seemed like not too bright.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was smart enough to just make shit up.
Right.
So he might not be remembering the details exactly as they happened, but I kind of feel like they murdered a lot more people than they know of. You know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me if there was other crime that wasn't discovered. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's true, but I'm just saying.
He killed her by shooting her.
Yeah, and also he said he had watched Robin beat another woman to death with a hammer. But then, and he said, ooh, this grossed him out so much that he threw up and stuff like that. I'm like, shut up, I don't believe that. But he said, too, that, like, on one of the other victims, Robin asked him to take the tit off, and he did it. Like, he cut both the tits off. But he said he wasn't sure if the woman was dead, but he didn't want to know.
Right.
So I kind of suspect she was probably still alive. And he said...
He would have known if they started... She must have been unconscious.
Yeah. And he said that Robin had forced him to fuck the wounds where the tits were cut off. That too.
Sounds unlikely.
Well...
How do you force a dude to get a hard on to fucking...
See, that's why I'm saying I don't think they were forced to do it. I think they were into it.
I think. Yeah.
Like, yeah, they were stupid.
Some kind of satanic thing in their minds.
But, yeah. In
the other guy's mind, he's a serial killer. He's a sexual sadist. You know what I mean?
Well, and you're not the first person to point that out, because like I said, I was watching the Time Suck earlier, and he said the same thing. He's like, I don't really buy. He's like, because you need to get a hard on.
Yeah.
To fuck a severed tit wound.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to be kind of into it.
Oh, you got to be very into it,
or it's not going to happen.
You're also being watched.
So he's like, so I don't really believe.
No.
This. Oh, I didn't really want to do it, but he made me. He's like, if you did it, then you wanted to do it.
You're also being watched, so that you add performance anxiety to the same thing. So no, he's into it.
Yeah,
if he did.
I mean, they had to be.
Yeah,
they had to be.
Yeah,
I gotta pee.
Some weird shit.
I gotta pee.
Go ahead.
So talk about.
I got a cue. Eventually, we'll have a whole alphabet. So, but
you're hilarious.
Let's see what everybody's talking about in here. Yeah, Casey Lee just showed up. What's up, bro? How are things over in your neck of the woods? Casey's in fucking Bangladesh. It's the other side of the damn planet. Looks like SideQuest Hero's here too. Haven't seen her in a while. She said she just made it. CB left. Oh, Sri Lanka, that's right. Sri Lanka, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't buy this he made me do this shit. No, because in order to rock up and to do this shit, you got to be into it. You can't just...
Yeah, you can't, like, put just your limp ass...
Without pharmacological aid, you know, like, in the porn industry, you have straight guys, fucking gay guys, you know, in the booty. And they got to take Trimix for that. I mean, you inject that into your dick, and you're going to get hard no matter what. And it'll be forever. It can be forever sometimes. Fucking, you're like fucking 6 hours of that shit.
The eternal erection.
Yeah, so I don't hear
about... Ooh, what a good band name that would be.
Oh, he made me fucking inject fucking Trimix and have sex with this chick's tit
hole.
Tit hole. Yeah, fucking nah, I ain't having.
That's what. I was thinking that too, because I'm just like, I think, you know what? I think the dude did it, but I think he was just trying to say, oh, he made me.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, you wanted to do that shit. Yeah. Come on, knock it off. Because like I said, if you didn't want to, you can't stick your limp ass little noodle in there. You know what I'm saying? If you actually fucking did it, then you wanted to do it. So yeah. So they got Eddie to confess to 7 murders and 1 count of aggravated battery. Like all of the stories that he told over the 70-odd pages that he wrote. So because of that, they're like, okay, well, maybe we can go in and talk to Robin Gecht now, because he's like the harder nut to crack, obviously. And he was in another room. So they did like the standard cop thing where they have like all the photos of victims and stuff, and they lay them all down in front of, they're trying to like freak them out or whatever. And in his case, because I think he's probably just a total sociopath, it didn't work. Like he just looked at the pictures like, meh. Well, you know, I don't know. I don't know any of those chicks. He just like totally didn't react at all. They also took him to another place where he could see the other cops like interviewing Eddie, and Eddie was clearly very distraught, and that didn't really seem to faze him either. You know, he just, like I said, he was just like a really hard nut to crack. He just wouldn't confess to anything. He didn't seem upset by anything or nervous about anything. He just thought he was going to get away with everything, I guess. But the thing about it was that when they brought Robin over to where like Eddie could maybe kind of see him, Eddie suddenly said that, never mind, Robin never killed anybody. Like, he just completely changed his full... Even though he'd spent, like, the last however long.
What's up, Victor? How you been, man?
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for showing up.
DVD Dragon said, how about a talk show with serial killers reviewing other serial killers? BTK talking about how disgusted he is with people beating off into titty holes.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
Oh, shit's unacceptable. Hold on. Here we go.
Which is hilarious to me, the whole...
they got guys with different kind of kinks and shit, but that's fucking unacceptable.
Not like the
not good. It's not good.
Classy serial killing that you did.
Well, it's not good for the community.
It's not good for the community. How are his murders good for the community? I'm interested to know how he would justify that.
Well, sometimes, it comes a time where a woman has to pass on, and
well, I have sexual problems.
And I've got sexual problems, and
sometimes women just
we're working out an arrangement between
Yeah. Just to keep everything on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
That's probably how he would justify it, I imagine. So Eddie, even though he'd been very forthcoming, like after they grilled him for a little while, and he's like, yeah, we did all this crazy shit. Like I said, confessed to straight up 7 murders. But after he saw Robin, he seemed to like clam up, like he was scared of him. And now the detectives are like, okay, what the fuck? Now we don't know what's going on. But then Eddie said, who was the real killer was this other dude, who is my girlfriend's brother, whose name is Andrew Kokoraleis. But he wouldn't say that much about him. So they asked Robin about this. It's like, do you know this Andrew Kokoraleis person? And he's like, yeah, I know him. It's like, I even know where he lives. And he, gave him the address and everything. But he's like, but I don't really know that much about him. I don't know him that well. You know what I mean? Which is a big fat lie. So the cops go to this house. And at this point, they're just kind of like, okay, like, we get that maybe these 2 guys were doing this shit, doing the rape and cutting off women's tits and stuff. But 3 dudes? Come on now, that's crazy. That, like, never happens. But they go out to this house. And they bring in Andrew Kokoraleis. And they lean on him kind of hard, too. And that dude also confesses. He's like, yeah, we would go out in the van and we would abduct women just off the street. We would gang rape them and stab them with whatever we had handy. Knives, razors, can openers at one point. The lids of tin cans.
That's where it's the most came from.
Yeah, all that. So they had all kind of fucking shit. And then they said, yeah, and then we'd cut off the tit usually with piano wire. And then we would all jerk off into the tit. So yeah.
That's bizarre.
So, yeah.
Now, was the woman alive when they cut the tits off, though?
I think most of the time she was, yeah.
Damn.
I think most of the time she was. So he actually did admit to 2 murders outright. That of Lori Borowski and Rose Davis.
Now, did they describe what the victim did when all this was happening to him?
No.
Okay.
Why would they care about that? It's just an object to them.
Right, yeah.
I don't see why they would care about that. But the way that he talked and the shit that he said, they're like, holy shit, these dudes might have killed, like, almost 20 people. You know what I mean? Like, the way they were talking. He also described the murder of Sandra Delaware, who I believe was only 18. And he said, she was screaming, so I shoved a rock in her mouth. And also, he had stuck a wine bottle up her vagina. And she was, like, bleeding really bad. And he was the one that stabbed her, he said, to death. And that lined up with what the autopsy report said.
Yeah,
in her case.
Which victim was that? Which body was that they found?
That was like I was going to say second to last, but I think it was the third to last. Because the second to last was the gang shooting.
Right, okay.
The last one survived.
Right.
But I think it was like the one before that.
So was that one a sex worker or just some chick that they found?
I think she might have been a sex worker.
Okay.
But yeah. So at this point, so they have these 3 motherfuckers in custody now. And so they start branching out and like asking family members and friends and stuff of these miscreants what the fucking deal is with them. And one thing that a lot of people said about Robin, who was quote unquote the ringleader, was he had what they called a breast fetish. I was like, this goes many shades beyond a breast fetish. I'm gonna say that. But they talked to like former girlfriends, they talked to his wife and stuff like that, and they said that he was really into asking women to like mutilate their own breasts like for his pleasure. Like he wanted you to stick pins in it or cut your own nipples off. Like a couple girlfriends said, yeah, he asked me to cut my nipples off.
With what, scissors?
I don't know. Like obviously they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Now I think his wife, who had been abused for a very long time, I don't think she ever cut her nipples off, but he did convince her to do some more quote unquote minor shit like that, like sticking pins in there and crap like that. Yeah. But she never turned him in though. I don't know why. Yeah. And then
that's not that extreme, just sticking a needle or a pin in there, you know. Like that they do that in fetishes. They'll stick needles. I've had needles all stuck in my back before doing acupuncture.
Yeah, but it's like she didn't really want to. She was just
She probably didn't think it was dangerous. But if she's also probably like, I ain't fucking I don't want to make this dude mad. You know?
Yeah, she was probably fucking terrified of him.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you got to take that.
That's weird though that you would ask, hey, can you cut your nipple off? I mean, it's not gonna hurt that bad. How do you fucking ask your woman to do that with a straight face? Could you do me a favor here? You know, here's some zip. You know,
if you asked me that seriously, I would punch you right in the face.
That's fucking ridiculous. Who would even think of that? Who would even think of that?
Seriously.
I've pierced her nipples, but I would cut them off. She wanted it.
Well, the fact that I trusted you to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little bit worried about it. But because you'd never done it before.
It looks good. It looks cute though.
But you did a good job.
Did a good job.
It hurt like fucking hell.
Yeah. Wow. I did it right, man. I did it deep. Not in the tip of the nipple, more in the areola.
But see, speaking about... See, now, what I was going to say was that's why I was trying to imagine, like, having your tit, like, squinched off. Like, with it. Because just you piercing one...
Yeah.
Made me almost black out.
With a pretty small...
Made me almost black out.
Yeah. And
so I can't imagine.
Another thing is that you were not fucking filled with adrenaline and endorphins. Like you weren't in a fight or flight mode. Those girls might have been so numb to everything by the time they did that their body probably reacted a bit with screams and shit, but they probably weren't feeling it as much as a normal person in a normal.
Jesus, I hope not.
Because I come off of bikes at fucking 70 and shit, and it beats you up. Didn't even feel a thing. For a couple hours later, I felt some shit. But, you know.
Well, see, that's another thing, too, is that if you live through it, it's like it might not be that bad in the time because you're so amped up.
You're amped up, right.
But then, like, later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That poor girl with her fucking boobs cut off and shit. Fuck. Wonder what they ever did to her. Did they give her some implants?
I don't know. I never found out. I mean, I imagine they would do reconstructive surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they would normally do.
That's what they would do. I don't know if she had health insurance and shit. They were like, well, you're just a hooker. If we give you boobs, you go out there and selling them again. You're just selling booty again.
That's what's sad about it is that, I don't really, because they would probably consider that cosmetic. And if you don't have, even if you had insurance, they'd probably give you shit about it.
Yeah.
That's why insurance companies suck.
Yeah.
But so they'd probably just be like, we're just going to put some stitches and you just get a tattoo over it or something.
Yeah. We'll just stitch your fucking hole up here. Fucking.
That's probably all they
like
did.
Like a mastectomy. You're good to go.
Yeah.
That won't kill you.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just cosmetic.
Yeah.
We're not paying.
Boobs are cosmetic.
We're not paying for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I imagine that's probably what happened, sadly. After she'd been through all that fucking shit.
Yeah. I think if I was a fucking doctor, I said, look, man, fucking go get the implants. It's on the house, baby. You've been through a lot. Fucking,
that's what I mean. You would think that like at least one nice doctor, you're like, you know what? I'll just do it for
I got it, bro.
Because Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Poor woman.
You're going to make all kinds of money with these.
Well, no, because, particularly the last woman, she was the one that got them caught.
Yeah, right.
Because she had such a good description of them in the vehicle and everything. Yeah. So it's like she's kind of a hero. Like, not only did she live through all that fucking bullshit, but she also had the presence of mind to be like, hey, he looks like this, and this is what their car looks like, and all this other shit. And they found him, like, within a couple weeks. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So while they were in the process of interviewing all of these people in their orbit, they happened to talk to Andrew's kind of slow brother, Tommy. And Tommy, when they were interviewing, was acting kind of weird too. And it turned out that he was also in on all of this stuff. At which point the cops were just like, are you fucking serious right now? There's fucking 4 of them. There's 4 of them. And because he wasn't too bright either, they thought, okay, well, we're going to lean on him kind of hard. And he also started talking. So what they pieced together from what the 3 kind of dim guys said, because Robin Gecht to this day has never ever confessed to anything. He says that he's innocent. All of this is made up.
All that bullshit.
They did it. I didn't do anything. Like, I was, they just made up this crazy story and I don't even have anything to do with it and blah blah, which no one believes, but you know what I mean. So but he has never wavered from that story. But what they pieced together from what the other 3 said was that, in the early 1980s, everybody, there was the whole satanic panic kind of shit. And all of these people were just, to be edgelords, were getting into like, ooh, let's do like satanic worship and shit like that. But the thing about it was that Robin Gecht seemed to have gotten he was real interested in Satanism. He had like a bunch of books about it. And he was real interested in like, specifically in kind of ancient rituals or tribal rituals where tits were cut off. Like he was real in
that exists.
Yeah, well, evidently, I don't know where that came from.
Where did that come from?
But he was really into that kind of shit, like kind of self mutilation kind of.
There was
stuff.
There was a Roman cult. I think it was called Cult of Attis, if I remember correctly. And one of the things is that the highest fucking form of sacrifice you could do is cut your own dick off. And it was to renounce.
I have heard of some cults like that.
And the Romans at the time thought this shit was fucking ridiculous. They were like, no fucking way. Evidently, because they kind of had freedom of religion, they wouldn't stop it. It was voluntary. Dudes wanted to cut their... And if they survived, they were a eunuch.
Yeah.
And what was weird is that this is happening in the very early Christian era. And a lot of shit that the Cult of Attis fucking did, blood sacrifice and crap like that, and giving up sex, kind of sounds like maybe the Christians might have been early Christians might have been influenced by those kind of concepts. Giving up worldly pleasure.
Yeah. What fun is that?
Yeah.
I never understood.
Well, they're being spiritual and high-minded. Fuck all this physical bullshit. We're in the world of the damn spiritual. Imaginary. We're in the imaginary world. Fuck. Yeah, we're in the imaginary world. It's just notional. It's gnosis. Thinking about it. Yeah.
And I like to think of myself as a fairly high-minded individual, but it's like all of that kind of shit just sounds really boring to me.
Yeah, you can't live normal. Your life should be spent in just thinking about this shit. That's basically what that means. Fuck all this sex and fuck doing shit for yourself and trying to live a normal life. No, you dedicate yourself to fucking Addis.
I mean, I could live without a bunch of stuff probably, but it's like I'm not doing without sex or booze,
right?
Or food or like good
it's
food.
Ridiculous.
I'm not being one of those like fucking people that's like I'm gonna go live in a fucking monastery or something and just eat gruel for the rest of my life and not. Yeah, no thanks. That doesn't sound like any fun at all. You only get one life, man. Like, don't hurt anybody else, but do what you want to do within limits. You know what I'm saying? So, Victor said I'm not going to Google which culture cuts tits off. I thought about it, but I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to do that either. I'm sure I'm probably on a list somewhere, but I was like, because I was curious. I was watching the Time Suck about this, and he kind of said the same thing. He's like, everything I read said that this dude was like super into like these tribal cultures that were like, there was apparently one where it was a big thing to like cut women's tits off, and it was, I don't know, but he's like, I couldn't find anything about that, and he's like, I didn't want to look any further because, you know, like I said, you get on a list or something. The closest thing that I could think of was, and I can't even remember what part of the world this was in, I remember reading about it a long time ago, but are kind of, and it doesn't have anything to do with cutting your tits off necessarily because it's usually a dude thing that they go through, but it's like a warrior cult kind of thing where it's like they'll do these like super intense like pain kind of like they'll put all these big hooks through their flesh and like hang there for 3 days and all this other kind of stuff, you know, and have people cut them and that kind of stuff, and then if they get through it then they can be a warrior. So I was thinking along those lines, but I don't know if there was one that specifically was like, yeah, you should cut your tits off. But apparently if there was, this dude was super into it because, man, he was real into, like, breast mutilation for whatever reason. And so he's like, and he was also really into satanic worship, like I said, even though the satanic panic was 99.999% bullshit, there were a couple of little holdouts like this that kind of gave advocates of the satanic panic like fuel for the fire. So they're like, well, look at this. So like they're doing this kind of this dude was like into satanic shit. Okay,
this kind of shit, and Richard Ramirez.
Those two dudes, like they, you know what I mean. And that's pretty much it. That's like really all I can think of. I mean, because some of the other ones were maybe, I feel like there were a couple like one-offs where people were like, oh, we're gonna put some satanic shit around here to freak everybody out. But this dude, I don't know if he really believed it, or I mean, he seemed to, I guess.
I think he was more into just.
I think he just liked
extreme breast bondage.
Yeah, I just think he just liked the idea.
You use Satan to justify it.
Yeah.
To give yourself some gravitas.
Yeah.
In front of your followers.
So Tommy says, he's like, what they would do is they would, when he would cut the tits off, he's like, he would bring the tits back to his altar. He had built like secretly in his attic. His wife didn't know about it, I guess. I don't know if it was like a secret room or if he just didn't let her go up there or whatever. But he'd like painted the walls red and painted like upside down crosses. And it was very, like I said, very edgelord. So he had like a little altar up there. He would bring the tits to the altar, and then all 4 of them would jerk off into the tit, like into the cut off side.
Yeah.
And then he would cut it up, and they would each eat part of it.
With their semen on it.
With the cum on it.
All mixed in together. Maybe they might be right about the bisexual part. He might have fucking been... That's gay as shit. That's gay as shit. Eating another man's fucking splooge. Eating 3 other man's of the splooge.
Yeah, like all mixed in together.
All mixed in together with yours. So that's 4.
4-man splooge.
So that's...
Does eating your own splooge count?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that still gay?
That's gay, too.
That's still gay?
That's auto gayness.
What if you jerk off and it goes into your own mouth? Is that gay?
Yeah, if it's by accident, then it's unwilling.
Then it's okay.
I've had this shit fly up on me before.
That's what I was gonna say, because I was like, you've had that happen before. So I'm just kind of like, but it was an accident. He didn't mean it.
Yeah, you're right.
It just kind of happened. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, but then again, they got
remembering that situation.
They evidently got some experts out there that can fucking aim for it, and hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, according to Tom, that's
good. Yeah.
So this, if it's like your own splooge and 3 other...
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that they are also eating a severed tit...
Yeah.
Let's not forget that little detail. So yeah. Oh, and he would also be like reading passages from the Bible too. I don't know if he was reading them backwards or because that's usually what they would do. So yeah, so everyone had to eat it.
I think he's a little bit gay. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, and doesn't want to admit it. Only a bisexual guy would come up with some shit like that.
That's
He's making up his own religion. It involves him eating the other three dudes.
Eating a tit with 3 other dudes cum on it and his own cum on it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a horror writer and I don't think of shit like that.
They had some shit happening in the fucking gym and fitness world. I forgot the dude's name. The shit went on for about a fucking year, and it was this fairly jacked dude, and he was saying that he wasn't on HRT or steroids. That he was drinking this other dude's fucking splooge, and it was fucking bolstering his fucking. Yeah.
Kind of like Countess Bathory, like supposedly bathing and drinking other young virgins' blood.
But the thing is that nobody knows if he was actually doing that. It might have been a huge troll. But I think, if I remember,
I mean, that kind of sounds like a troll.
I think they were gay dudes, but a lot of gay guys in the gym. I think they were gay dudes trolling.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing about it is if they were gay dudes, they were doing that anyway.
Yeah,
they were like, we're just gonna say it like it's kind of like it has magical.
I mean,
properties.
he was definitely on fucking HRT and steroids, But he was saying it wasn't that; it was from drinking this other dude's fucking splooge, that it bolstered his testosterone levels, and fucking they actually had fucking straight fitness and fucking muscle dudes trying to do a whole show on if that's possible. It's not possible. You can't eat that because women would be jacked.
I was just going to say,
have women out there be
if
jacked
drinking dudes come made you like all jacked and everything like that, then most
women would be jacked.
Would look like that.
Yeah.
Think for 2 seconds.
Right, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, that's how a lot of guys would shoot it down. They said that the most jacked women of all times would be these fucking street prostitutes. And prostitutes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And we do not see that.
Yeah. So and they would go, well, they're spitting. And I put, what
they
about
can't all be spitting. Come on, think about it. Just think for 5 seconds. Or 2 seconds, whatever.
They were trying to, if you can drop in the comment section, you remember who, I think I got some fitness guys in there. You remember who that was. They were creators.
Yeah, that sounds like a joke to me.
I think they were trolling. Yeah.
Victor says, this chick on TikTok said she caught her boyfriend blowing his friend, and he said they were just transferring masculine energy.
Yeah.
And she wanted to know if that was a real thing.
Man, there's all kinds of fucking TikTok shit. You don't know if it's true or not.
I imagine 95% of that shit is just bullshit. They're just doing it for views.
Yeah, I think so.
Because if you put some dumb shit up there or some crazy shit up there, everyone's going to watch it, obviously. It's like, I don't really think anybody... I mean, there's a lot of stupid people out there, not going to lie. But I don't think anybody really believes... If you saw your boyfriend blowing another dude, and he said, I'm just transferring masculine energy, 99.99% of women would not buy that for one fucking second.
They had one that was going around for a while. It's still kind of going around. Girl is fucking on fucking phone. She's on the phone camera. He's fucking recording her. And fucking and it starts off like, I can't believe you fucked that dude. And she's, I couldn't control myself. I was ovulating. And fucking, what do you mean you're ovulating? Because you don't understand how a woman's body works when they're ovulating. This, and she's going on about she was ovulating that
she had to fuck that dude.
That she had to fuck that dude.
But see, that's clearly a joke.
And he's going, no fucking way. He goes, yeah, it's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? I'm not going anywhere type of deal. And she's like, well, fuck you. I cheated on you anyway. He goes, well, who? And he's fucking named the girl's name. He's like, you motherfucker. And this is what's the same thing. And that was kind of like the end of the. But the way it was edited and the timing sounded like a skit to me.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a skit.
Yeah.
Well, because
it was a good one though.
They're playing into the fact that study that said that when women are ovulating, they want to fuck like a super hot dude or something like that. Which is
Robin was like that lesbian girl I was fucking seeing.
Yeah. Back
in the day.
But I'm just saying,
she'd be gone all the time till she was ovulated and she wanted to fuck.
Yeah.
Then she'd go back to her girlfriend.
Like I said, I know they've done studies and stuff, but it's just like everyone's different, and I don't think it's a huge... Yeah. It's not a huge difference, but I think they play shit up, obviously, because they want people to read it. You know what I mean? And it's the same kind of thing. They're just making a joke.
Think about that. Women would get a pass when they're ovulating. Well, I was ovulating. I couldn't control. You don't understand the hormones. That's what you would say.
That's what's really weird. It's like, I'm a woman too. I ovulated for however many years, and it's like I don't remember feeling any particular pull towards
dudes,
different types of dudes or anything like that during that time period. I never really noticed a difference, and I think that most women don't.
Yeah. I've heard different things depending on how women are attracted to different kinds of guys, whether or not they're on birth control or not, because a lot of hormonal birth control adds estrogen to them. So
I've heard that too. So but like I said, it's hard to say for me because I don't really notice that kind of stuff. I'm not real Right. They say that
if women aren't on birth control and they're young, they're going to be more attracted to muscular and kind of threatening looking dudes, real super macho dudes. They'll be attracted.
I've heard that too, but like I said,
then you put that same woman on fucking hormonal birth control. She's more into like betas, kind of heavy set. And she said it's because the explanation is because they're in a state of being hormonal. They're in a state of being that's like they've already given birth. So they're more attracted to like a dad.
Well, you want someone that's gonna stay around and help you.
Yeah. But when you're fucking ovulating and you're fucking free, you're looking for the hot motherfucker.
I've heard that.
It makes a lot of sense to me.
But it does. But I also think it's an oversimplification, as most things are in pop science.
I think it depends on the age of the woman. Younger women have a lot less understanding of their inner workings, and they really give into their emotions.
That's true too.
But woman is in 30s, she fucking knows the game, and she's not in a quite safe situation.
And the thing about it too is that when they do scientific studies like that, like if you read the actual paper, it's a lot more nuanced. But when it gets into the science media, like the pop science media, they kind of play up
the basic shit.
The basic, so it's seems more salacious or seems more interesting. So I think people remember that more because if you go back and read the paper, it's like a tiny difference. Yeah. But they're playing it up like it's because they want people to read it.
It's the same thing with testosterone. Saying, well, you can inject testosterone and gain fucking 20 pounds of muscle without even working out. No, not really. If you fucking read the fucking in between the lines and you know how testosterone, you might gain 20 pounds, but a lot of it's water retention. Instead you probably instead you probably fucking gain 3 pounds. But on the scales it shows up 20, but it's water. So shit like that.
All right, so let's get back to this because we still got a little while. And then we can talk about other shit. Although we've only been on for 2 hours. It feels like we've been on all night. But
go ahead and we'll fucking do the second. This is the second half of the show, I guess you say.
I mean,
I'm hungry, man. I'm gonna make some shit for us.
This mostly stuff is about like the trial. And
okay, the trial. All right.
Which because after they caught them.
Yeah.
So when they talked to Tommy, he was basically like, Robin can get you to do whatever he wants you to do, like implying that he had supernatural powers. Do I think he really believed that? I doubt it. He wasn't that smart, but I don't think he was that dumb. You know what I mean? I think it was maybe more a case that he was afraid that Robin would do some fucked up shit to him if he didn't do what he was told. But on the other hand, I also think he was kind of into it at the same time. So they take all 4 of them into custody. And as I said, Robin would not admit to anything at all. Although they did think it was interesting that when they found out that he had worked for John Wayne Gacy, he basically said something along the lines of, he didn't condemn him for like, hey, killing 33 young men or however many people. It was 33, wasn't it? I think it was 33.
Something like that.
He basically said it wasn't necessarily wrong that he did that. He's like, well, his mistake was burying them under his house.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Meaning it's like it wasn't wrong that he did it. It was just wrong that he was stupid that he got caught.
Yeah.
Which, that's a little bit of a red flag, I feel.
Guy's a psychopath. He doesn't fucking see things the same way you do.
And so the thing about it, though, is that they also interviewed some other people who knew Robin Gecht. And some of those other people also kind of said the same thing, is that he did seem to have some kind of weird manipulative power. Not all of them said that they thought it was supernatural or satanic or whatever, but at least one other person who was like an acquaintance of theirs told the investigators, don't look at him in the eyes because he can like make you do things. You know what I mean? Which, like I said, I don't buy that. I don't buy that people have magical powers. I get that people believe that other people might have magical powers, but I don't think they actually have magical powers. So I don't know. If you believe somebody has magical powers, maybe they can, like, get you to do stuff. So, I don't know. So, maybe in that sense, maybe they do have magical powers because they can get you to do stuff, even though they don't literally have them. But yeah, so, as I mentioned before, they did find out that there were reports that he had possibly, allegedly, molested his sister when he was younger. And that he was sent off to live with his grandparents as a result. And kind of got into Satanism when he was a teenager. As I said, like, he was probably in about his mid-20s when he was caught. And the thing about it, like I said, despite his pathologies, Robin Gecht did appear to be a fairly normal individual. He was, he had a wife, he had 3 kids, he owned a contracting business, so nobody really thought too much about it, I guess. So after they picked them all up, the media actually were the ones that gave them the moniker the Ripper Crew, or sometimes the Chicago Rippers, just because of the mutilations that they had done, like, kind of reminded people of Jack the Ripper, obviously, so, because Jack the Ripper would also kind of cut tits off on occasion, and also take out your uterus and various other things.
Play with that, yeah.
So, yeah, or take it and eat it or whatever. No, that was a kidney that he ate that time, wasn't it? But
there's no evidence that was actually a kidney, a human kidney. That might, you might have got that from the butcher shop. That might have been a hoax.
Yeah,
the
true.
Kidney they brought in,
but
although a kidney was missing, huh?
Yeah, a kidney was
missing.
They
probably fucking said in the newspaper that a kidney was missing.
Mm.
And somebody went down and got a fucking lamb's liver kidney.
He's like, this will be funny.
Yeah.
Some fucked up person.
Yeah.
But yeah. So they did actually search Robin's house, and they found his satanic chapel or whatever with the red walls and whatnot. And they also found the rifle that had been used to shoot that had been used in the drive-by shooting. And they found a whole bunch of books about Satanism, and they found a box that had 15 severed tits in it.
So he had them. Damn.
I don't know if it was 15 actual, because, okay, some sources say 15 actual tits, and some say 15 pieces of tits.
Okay.
Because they did eat some of them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it was like 15 intact tits. Oh, this is horrible. This is like fucking Ed Gein and his nipple belt.
And is that 15 different people, or is it sometimes 2 tits off one person?
Well, now, most of the victims...
Yeah.
The first woman had both her tits removed.
Yeah.
But
2.
most of the victims had just one.
Yeah.
It was usually the left one. And sometimes they would leave the other one. Sometimes they would mutilate the other one. But a couple of them had both of their tits cut off.
But none of the other offenders explained why it was only one. Sometimes 2 and sometimes 1. You just said
I don't think they thought about it that deeply, to be honest with you.
They were saying that other dude did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really wouldn't fucking...
Well, they said the other dude did it until, like, he came into their... And then he's like, no, he didn't do anything.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I think they thought he was going to put a curse on him or something.
Right.
I don't know. Now, at the trial, Robin Gecht actually got on the stand in his own defense, which I'm sure was really entertaining. Now, he did say that he had, quote-unquote, attacked the last victim who lived, Beverly Washington. But he's like, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't rape anybody. I didn't do any of this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, I don't even know these guys, really.
Yeah.
These other 3 dudes. Like, he just denied, like, everything. And he was, like, super cool, super collected. Like, he never fucking said anything. Now, they did actually bring on, like, a bunch of, like, ex-girlfriends and all this other kind of stuff. They said, yeah, he asked me to cut off my own fucking nipples, all this other kind of stuff. And... You know, the other 3 guys, like, with the stories and stuff. But I guess they didn't have enough physical evidence. Almost like, you'd think the box of tits would be enough. But for some reason, and the other 3 guys, even though they confessed all this stuff, when it came time to do the trial, they wouldn't testify against him because they were apparently terrified. So, I guess they couldn't get enough evidence together to charge him. I mean, they did charge him with stuff, but not with, like, the murder. So, they charged him with attempted murder, rape, deviant sexual assault, aggravated battery, and armed violence. So, he did get guilty on all of those. But he was never charged with murder, which was kind of interesting. But...
Were the other guys?
We'll find out.
All right.
But, yeah. Now, he did get sentenced to 120 years.
They knew who he was.
In prison.
Yeah.
Now, he is eligible for parole, but not until 2042, at which point he will be 88 years old.
And let that bitch out.
If he lives that long, it's like you could beat up an 88-year-old man.
Yeah.
It's fine.
He's going to die in there.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah, he won't live to that age.
Now, Tommy, who was 23 at the time, he was the one... well, I mean, all of them kind of confessed to stuff, but he tried to get his confession thrown out, but he was not successful. So he actually did get convicted in 1984, and he got sentenced to 70 years, and I believe that was only in Lori Borikowski's murder. Now, he was actually supposed to get out on parole in 2017, but because he didn't have... I guess I'm not really sure exactly how parole works. This was Illinois, right? He didn't have a place to live when he got out, so they wouldn't let him out. But I guess he sorted that all out. So they actually did let him out in 2019. And he moved into... He lives like at a church, like a ministry's homeless shelter kind of place. Or he did for a while. But they said as of 2024, he lives in Peoria, Illinois, somewhere. You know what I mean? Because he's on the sex offender registry still.
Right.
But they did let Tommy out. Like I said, he was... he very low IQ. He was pretty low IQ. And that was one of the things that probably was instrumental in his release. And he didn't have a criminal record either. He was the one that had a 75 IQ that they tested. Now, his brother, Andrew, he had a trial of 2 separate counties. The first trial was for Rose Davis, and he basically confessed to that. He said, yeah, we saw her, we pulled her into the van with the other dudes, and he said that he was the one that had beaten her with the hatchet, and that he was the one that had killed her. So he got life in prison for that murder. And then at the second one, he decided that all of the confessions he had made up to now, because he confessed to the police at first, and then like he said at the first trial and all this other kind of stuff, but he decided he was gonna say like, no, none of that was real. I didn't do any of that. I didn't rape anybody. I didn't kill anybody. Blah blah. And then he tried to come at it from the police told him what to say, and they coerced all the confessions out of him. Yeah, he's like, yeah, the cops like told me everything, and it's like I just had to write it down, and then I just had to sign it or whatever. And but you know, a lot of the cops that had interrogated him, they obviously had them on the stand and stuff. And one of the cops was like, look, we brought him into the room. It's like we had photos of one of the victims and like a bunch of other women. And he immediately picked the photo of Lori Borikowski out and said, yeah, that's the girl that Eddie and I killed in the cemetery. He immediately said. So it just seemed like his story was that a grand total of 8 different law enforcement officials had coerced him into... Which, like I said, if it's one cop... All right, I maybe could believe that, because cops are a little overzealous sometimes. Okay, I get it, and people have been coerced into confessions before. It has happened. But when you're saying 8 different dudes coerced you into this story that you told, yeah, that's a little far-fetched. You know what I'm saying? And the jury did not buy it either. They were, they only deliberated for a little while, maybe less than 3 hours, and then came back with a guilty verdict. And he got a death sentence. And like I said, they were trying to argue that because, like I said, he wasn't that bright and he seemed like non-threatening, he could probably be rehabilitated. You know, they were trying to argue all of this other kind of shit. But it didn't really work. He did all these appeals, and his death sentence was upheld at another trial in 1989. Then later, they tried to argue that he had schizophrenia and that he didn't know what he was doing, and that he was like really easily manipulated. There was that kind of shit too. So they try to, I mean, what else are you going to fucking argue? Like something like this, right? You know, and then he was like really vulnerable to being influenced by other people, you know what I mean? And it's like, that didn't really work either, because they're like, look, he doesn't really have any history of that. Like, nobody that knows him, like, said that they suspected anything like that. Like, he had some kind of psychiatric disorder or anything like that. So it's like, no thanks. So the death sentence was affirmed once again. Now, Andrew, Kokoraleis, his execution was scheduled for March 17th, 1999. Now, at the time, the governor of Illinois was George Ryan, and they were asking him to overturn the death sentence. And one of the things that was kind of going on around this time period was that the Chicago Tribune and like some other, groups and stuff had actually found a dozen people on death row that it turned out later had not done the crimes they were convicted of. So there was like a lot of debate at the time around the death penalty, because like, look, if there's fucking 12 people on here that we found that didn't do the shit, then this is maybe obviously...
You can only blame that on Illinois.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
and this was pre-DNA. Nowadays...
No, this was 90s. This was 90s.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the cases themselves. Those things have probably been in there for fucking decades. Because you can be on death row for fucking 20 years. Nowadays, if you don't have video or DNA, you're probably not going to... DNA evidence, you won't get the death penalty. That might give you life in prison. But to get death penalty nowadays in most states, it's got to be fucking locked up tight. They know you. They know you.
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, that's
shit's
irreversible. But because
you're talking about a lot of those cases. You're talking about probably late 70s, early 80s, and they're still in.
Yeah, I don't know when a lot of them were. But one of the cases they were talking about in particular was, and this was a fairly famous case that happened in Illinois, was a guy named Anthony Porter, and his IQ was only 51, and he was a black man.
Yeah.
And he had been in prison on death row for 17 years for a double murder. And he was actually he was actually scheduled to be executed in 1998. But it turned out that it's like one of the advocacy groups that were they actually found some DNA evidence and stuff like that showed that he didn't do it.
Right.
And then another dude confessed to it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, like I said, was getting people to be like, man, maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, DNA technology changed the game.
It really did.
In order to get the death sentence now, they basically have to have DNA evidence on you. Because if there's any doubt, you're not going to get that. You're going to get life. They have to know you did it to get death nowadays. Not back so much in the late 70s, early 80s. They didn't know what DNA technology was. If the story was good... Fucking the jury would convict you, and the fucking judge would go, yeah, fuck that dude, fucking death.
Which, yeah, to me it was like, because when I was researching my true crime books, like they were saying, back in the day, the conviction rate was much higher, and they were almost kind of like, oh, we can't solve crimes nowadays. I'm like, no, I think y'all were just solving crimes like erroneously, because y'all were just going on like one witness's testimony and locking up this poor motherfucker who probably didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They've had women...
So, they have a conviction.
Yeah.
But it's like maybe that person didn't do it.
They had this one white chick. She put this black dude behind bars for like fucking 15 years saying, he raped me, pointed right at him. They eventually got DNA evidence. They found DNA evidence from the case on some clothing and shit. They tested it. It wasn't his DNA. It wasn't him.
Well, like I said, I think that happens a lot.
Then they wouldn't let him out, and she fought to get him out. They says, no, he's wrong. I misidentified him. It's not him.
For her.
Yeah, she fought to get him back out.
I mean, she didn't...
They became friends and shit.
I'm sure she didn't do it maliciously.
No. She just was...
It was just mistaken identity.
She said he looked like that, but it's not him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it happens.
Yeah. Well, the DNA came out, and it says it wasn't his DNA.
Yeah, that wasn't him. Yeah. Like, it couldn't have been him.
Yeah.
But I mean, good for her
He's like, I told you.
For saying I was wrong.
Yeah, and she fought to get him out for like several years. It took her several years to get him out of there.
I mean, I would do the same.
She was visiting him in prison.
Feel really bad.
She's visiting him in prison and sending him stuff. She was, and she was like, yeah, I guess it wasn't you. She goes, no, it wasn't me. I was telling the truth all along. She goes, I'm gonna get you out of here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she didn't know. She just misidentified.
No, she didn't know.
Well, the thing about it is that in a situation like that, I mean, I think it would be pretty easy to like misidentify somebody.
Yeah.
and especially if they're showed, because usually what they'll do in a
she
police...
went through a rough time, and it was just
in a police
dude
lineup,
fucking, and
they'll show you dudes that look kind of similar.
Kind of similar, right.
Like, that look kind of like the dudes you described.
That's what happened.
So obviously a lot of those dudes are kind of going to look the same.
Yeah, right.
So it'd be pretty easy to be like, yeah, I think that's that guy.
He was just kind of a tall, thin black dude. And, fucking...
It could happen.
With like, average black dude hair. So she saw that and goes, that's him.
Yeah.
But,
well, it probably looked like
she was under a lot of fucking stress.
Same hair, same body type. Body type.
Yeah, same body type, same hair and everything, same race. And she goes, I think that's him. That's him. And she's fucking convinced it was him.
Yeah.
But memory is fucking tricky.
It is very.
It was just a dude that looked like him.
That's why I really...
Yeah.
I believe people's accounts of things, generally, but memory is not the Memorex tape recording that you think it is. It can be manipulated, especially like the longer it goes on. I honestly would not trust myself if something horrible happened to me and like somebody did it, and it's like I would not trust myself completely to describe the person.
I'm gonna give you guys a good example. This is a military example. When I was in Egypt, a place called fucking South Camp, they had me up in a fucking guard tower, and our camp was right next to a fucking airfield, an Egyptian airfield. And one of the orders that they gave me is if you see any Egyptian military aircraft landing at that airfield, fucking call us. Because I had an intercom, a radio actually. And I was up there writing a fucking letter to my ex-girlfriend at the time, fucking and jamming out to music. I was totally fucking relaxed. And I saw a fucking military aircraft come and land at that fucking airport. And I got on the phone and says, a military aircraft just landed there. And they're like, really? And what kind was it? And I went, I don't know. And they said, come on in here. We're going to send we're going to get a whole statement out of you. I said, all right. So they took a replacement in there. And fucking it was my squad leader, Sergeant, what was his name? Can't remember. I could picture his face, but I've had so many of them over the years, I don't remember them all. And he's like, okay, well, what type of aircraft was it? Was it a propeller plane or a jet? And I was going, man, I saw it, but I can't remember what it was. It was a military aircraft of some sort. He said, but was it a jet or a propeller plane? And I said, it was a jet. He said, how big are we talking? Fighter jet? And I said, no, it was bigger than that. And it was it was bigger than that. And he goes, well, what was it? What color was it? And I says, it was camouflaged. They were like, all right, well, we're going to fucking get in the vehicle. We'll drive over there and fucking look at it and see what plane this is. And I said, it's camouflage. And I said, it kind of reminded me of the Concorde. And they were like, okay, all right. We got in a truck to go over there and look at it. It was a C-130 fucking cargo plane painted fucking orange and white. That's what it was. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Completely different.
Totally different. A C-130 cargo plane's a propeller plane. It's not sleek at all like the fucking Concorde, you know what I mean? But see, it wasn't even fucking green. It was fucking white and orange.
I'm just very aware of how memory is not reliable.
It's not reliable, no. Because it startled me. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and you weren't really thinking about it.
I wasn't really thinking about it.
Right. You were thinking about something else.
I knew that was a military aircraft. It was a C-130. And then it left my field of vision once it landed. And I saw it for several seconds. But for some reason, because it startled me, I couldn't remember exactly what it looked like.
Yeah,
and I had it totally wrong.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. So I can totally imagine not remembering what the motherfucker who attacked me looked like.
Yeah, because it's a heightened emotions. It happens too fast.
Yeah.
That's why I always have like a lot of admiration for victims that can remember.
Yeah. Because it's a shock to the system.
The details and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What the person looked like, what their vehicle looked like, that have the presence of mind to do that. Because I kind of feel like most people would not, like, they just be like, I don't know, it was a white dude.
Yeah.
With hair.
Yeah.
That's probably about all I could come up with.
Yeah.
Was he tall, short? I don't know.
Right.
He wasn't super tall. He wasn't super short. They just
put
no help at all.
They just put a bunch of black dudes in front of her lined up, and she picked the one that looked closest from what she remembered. And then she convinced herself it was that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She might have had some doubt.
Yeah, but she doubted that. She talked herself out of that doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's kind of how you do.
Yeah. And to her fucking, you can look this case up. Fucking probably Grok would remember what it was. To the chick's fucking credit, man, she fought for years to get that dude out of there.
Good for her.
She said, "No, I got it wrong," and they were like, "No, you don't have it wrong."
She's like,
because he had a criminal record, but it wasn't him.
Right.
They had the DNA and fucking.
Yeah, just because you have a criminal record in some things doesn't mean you did this other
thing. And the
thing.
prosecutors didn't want to retry it or that kind of shit. They were like, "It's not him." Eventually,
that's that dude's life, though.
Eventually, one of the appeals courts went, "Oh, okay," and they overturned the conviction.
Finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so because of all of the controversy about the death penalty and all of these people being exonerated, I think that old Andrew Kokoraleis was hoping that he would get a stay of execution. Spoiler alert, he did not. Basically, like, the governor was kind of like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this death penalty thing, but, you know, the jury gave you the death penalty and I'm willing to go along with that. So yeah. He'd had 16 years to appeal it, and it hadn't worked out. So they're like, okay, we're just going to go through with it. But I kind of feel like he thought up until the last minute that he was going to get that phone call, that it wasn't going to happen. He didn't ask for a last meal or anything. So, but they did execute him. So one of them's out, one of them is executed, the other one's in prison still. So it so happens that Andrew Kokoraleis was the last person in Illinois that was executed before the moratorium, like on the death penalty. Because of the moratorium, the other guy, Eddie Spreitzer, who was also, I believe, on death row, like, his sentence was commuted. Because he actually pled guilty in 1984 to 4 murders. Those of Rose Davis, Sandra Delaware, Shuey Mack, and Rafael Torrado. And he got life sentences for each one. And he got, like, a bunch of other charges, too, like rape and sexual assault and all that other kind of stuff. But then they put him on a separate trial for the Linda Sutton murder. That was their first victim, the one that was found behind the motel. And in that one, he basically said, we found her just walking around by Wrigley Field in Chicago, and they picked her up, handcuffed her, raped her, and then took her breasts off. And then they raped her again, and then left her behind the motel.
She was... okay, so they raped her after the breasts were removed, and she was still alive.
Yeah, they raped her twice, like a gang.
She was alive during that?
I guess so, yeah.
What was the cause of death?
Well, I don't know.
They didn't say.
But yeah. So his defense attorney tried to argue that it's like, oh, he's just a dummy, and it's like he's super influenced by, Robin and all this other kind of stuff. But they did have a friend of Eddie's that testified that he had been laughing about the crimes. He's like, yeah, these broads, we fucked them all up, we killed them, blah, blah, blah. So no one really bought that because they had some people testify that it's like he'd been talking about that shit, like he enjoyed it, you know what I mean? So he got convicted in that trial, and then he got the death penalty in that one. So we got life sentences for the other one, and then death penalty in this particular trial. So he went to death row in Joliet. Now, he ran his appeals out. But basically, because of the moratorium, like, his brother got executed, but because of the moratorium, his sentence was actually commuted to life. And they said same thing, like, because he only had a 76 IQ, and so he was easily manipulated, blah-de-blah, but it's like all the victims' families came out and be like, nah, man, like, don't fucking let that motherfucker out, you know what I'm saying? So he didn't get it. But the thing about it, I don't know. I kind of feel like... So he's still in prison. So him and Robin are still in prison. One of the dudes has been let out, and one of them was executed, is how that turned out. Now, later on, there was a true crime writer named Jennifer Furio. And she wrote to a bunch of serial killers to see if they would write back to her. And the ones that did write back to her, she put them in a book that was called The Serial Killer Letters, which was a very creative title. And Eddie Spreitzer and Robin Gecht did actually write back to her. Now, Eddie said that he had turned himself in, which was not true. He also said he felt really bad about being involved in the crimes. And he said, when he saw blood, he would pass out, which I don't believe that either. And he also said that he just did it because he was afraid of Robin Gecht and that he would shoot him otherwise and that he had supernatural powers. And he said, I never did bad things by myself. I don't know. I kind of feel like the author of the book kind of like leaned into this a little bit. Yeah, maybe he was kind of stupid and, his home life was fucked up and stuff like. I'm like, he wasn't that stupid. I don't think he was that stupid.
He just got caught up in peer pressure of a fucking wolf pack mentality.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too.
They had a charismatic leader from their point of view.
Yeah,
and he wanted to do all this shit, and they're like, well, it's not on me, it's him.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just do it to get through it. And fucking yeah, I get something out of it. I don't normally fucking get to have sex with women, and I have sex with them even after their titties are cut off. It's just better than nothing. And I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to look weak in front of these other dudes.
That's probably exactly what his mindset was.
Yep.
And he also said, we didn't really plan any of these. We just drove around in the van, and we would just look for women. And it's like, whenever Robin, who was the ringleader, would see a woman that had big boobs, he'd be like, yeah, let's stop and get that one. And, then they would pick her up and do what they did. And so the author was like wondering about what was Robin's deal, like with the breasts. And he was fairly forthcoming. This is kind of hilarious in a fucked up sort of way. He says that the breast fetish was, quote, a thing with my entire family. He said that from his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, we'd all been super obsessed with breasts, and all of their wives had really big breasts. And he said even his wife was a 39D, and she was, quote-unquote, very satisfactory to him, which is a weird thing to say about your wife, but okay.
You're satisfied with his capture?
With his, yeah.
Yeah.
He also again denied everything. Yeah, but in the worst way imaginable.
Yeah, he's a boob man, but he's cruel. He's a sadistic fucking sexual sadist.
Yeah.
But this whole thing about going through generations, I mean, fucking big boobs are in my family. I like them. But I think all guys do. I don't think it has to be in your family. He's just trying to project it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I didn't do it. It's my ancestors.
That's exactly what it is.
What he's doing.
They're trying to shift the blame to people other than themselves, which is very, very common with these types of criminals.
I grew up liking big boobs and shit. That is the last thing I want to do is cut them off. That's what's
so weird to me. Like, it's if you like big boobs, why would you want to fuck up the big boobs? Why would you want to mutilate them?
Yeah, you're trying to keep them around. Yeah.
It's like not only that, but he mutilates, like he cuts them off and then jerks off into them and then eats them.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that about?
Sexual sadism.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's like not normal, bro. I hate to tell you.
No.
I don't know if you're watching right now, but that's not normal.
Enjoying boobology, breast worship and shit doesn't have anything to do with fucking hurting people. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
I mean, you just want them the way they are because you appreciate them.
You want to put them up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But this sick fucker's trying to eat them. Yeah, and make everything fucking pain around them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like breast bondage, but very extreme. See, the Japanese have fucking thing called rope bondage, and rope bondage is where they tie women up with ropes. Okay. Sometimes it's a Japanese girl tying up other Japanese girls or white girls or whatever. There's a whole fucking porn category of that, rope bondage, and they're good at it. But it's fun more than anything else. It's about restriction.
Well, and everybody's
consensual, right? Yeah.
It's not like they're just snatching people and putting them in their fucking murder van.
Yeah. Now, sometimes...
Hey, let's cut your tits off with piano wire. Won't that be fun?
Yeah, sometimes in rope bondage, they'll tie the boobs up. Do like a figure 8 between them and make like a big fucking...
Yeah.
2 big fucking boobs on the outside. Then they'll tie those up so it's like a bra now, But they're not hurting them.
Yeah.
Or they might pretend... Sometimes they'll be pulling hard, and she's acting, But it's acting. It's acting.
Well, the thing is, it's like, if it kind of hurts,
sometimes
then that's kind of good.
Yeah,
but it's like, if it starts hurting too much, then it's like, that's not good anymore.
Yeah, they show them the untying process and she's unharmed. So, it's just...
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
That's miles away from
Yeah.
cutting someone's whole tit off.
Yeah. I saw one where Japanese girl.
Which every time I say that, I'm just like,
Japanese girl in Japan. She looked like she's a professional dominatrix. Pretty cute. With a white girl who speaks just English, and she ties her up and she's in the lotus position, tied up with her fucking arms behind her back, her hair tied around and with a hook that goes in there, and so she's in this. Then they start putting things in her nose to make a piggy nose, and then putting a thing in her mouth to fucking stretch her mouth out with her teeth, and they're rubbing on her tongue, and another Japanese lesbian's rubbing on her tongue and shit, and then throw her over and just use a big old fucking Hitachi on her, and she's giggling and shit. But some women like restriction, but it's got to be with an expert. They're doing all kinds of
they have to know what they're
fancy
doing.
knots and shit.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
She's speaking
game.
Japanese to her. You know what the fuck she's saying. Girl probably doesn't know what they're saying. What she's saying. They're professionals. They're having fun. I'll show you that one. You'd probably like that one.
I've seen ones like that.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
But yeah, so. Even in these letters after he was already in prison and he's not getting out, he still would not confess to anything. And it's just like, no, it was the other guys making up stories about me. The cops are biased, blah, blah, blah. It was this whole me, I'm a victim kind of crap. You know what I mean? Because they all fucking do that, don't they? Unless they show off about it. It's like they either show off about it or I didn't do anything, everybody's against me kind of situation. Interestingly, Robin Gecht, one of his, remember I said he had 3 kids?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 1999, when his son was 18, son, chip off the old block, gonna say. His son was also charged with first-degree murder. It was actually more like a gangland slaying. It wasn't like a serial killer kind of thing. It's still killing people, obviously, but it's...
different motive.
Yeah, it was a different kind of motive. He killed a dude named Roberto Cruz in early 1999. And he had 2 other guys with him who were also charged, but he was the gunman. You know what I mean? So he actually got 45 years in prison. So he might be paroled, but not till 2044. And then the other 2 dudes were kind of charged as well. So they're all still in prison. So yeah. So this whole family is just pieces of shit all around.
Psychopathy fucking runs through the family, probably just at a genetic level.
But like I said, the fact that he found
each time.
These other dudes, and the thing about it, the dudes that he found, they were dudes that worked for him.
Yeah,
is how he found them. So it kind of scares me. Because, okay, so as a relative, I don't want to say a normal person, because I'm not normal by any stretch of the imagination, but like as a relatively stable person, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You like to think that most people are like, and I think most people are, to a degree. But if you guys remember, like recently, you know that fucked up case in France that just came out about that dude who'd been like knocking out his wife for years and like letting people, like dudes come over and rape her
for money, yeah, pimping his wife out, his unconscious wife,
yeah, and like she didn't know what was happening because she was unconscious the whole time.
Yeah,
and
imagine if she got pregnant.
I know.
How could he explain that? Maybe she was on the pill.
I would hope
Maybe
so.
Maybe the dude was wearing condoms or something.
I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't want to read too much about it because I'm like, this will just enrage me.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I don't think so. But see, the thing that fucks me up about that is that, well, obviously the case itself is fucked up, but nobody, like, 1, he got all those dudes to go along with it.
Yeah.
2, none of the dudes that he asked that didn't want to do it turned him in. None of them.
I guarantee you what happened was...
That's crazy.
There's an unconscious fetish. There's
I know.
like that, where she's asleep and this and that, and it's almost always fake. It could be that he was on some kind of a fucking Reddit or some kind of a fucking part of social media of guys that had that fetish, and he was finding the local ones and said, "Hey, you want to do it?" Maybe he was getting some reciprocation. Maybe they were doing that to his wife or to their wives, and he was going over there.
Like I said, I didn't want to read all the details because I would probably.
But chances are he just kind of may have had a fetish about that, of having sex with people.
But yeah, a lot of people
who are
do.
unconscious.
It's not that uncommon.
You know, fucking a lot of the date rape drug dudes. That's what they're into. They could get that woman, but they want her drugged. They want her unconscious. That's like I guess because it's not consensual. it's more erotic for them.
Yeah,
they're not fighting the
fucked up.
Yeah,
that's all kind of.
But Bill Cosby was doing that shit basically.
Yeah, that's all kind of.
Yeah, and a lot of those women were on dates with him anyway.
Yeah,
he wanted them unconscious. So, he was probably one of those. And he was doing it like a hot wife version of that. Enjoy my wife,
but she didn't know anything.
But she doesn't know any better. He was probably jerking it, or wasn't he recording it?
I think he might have
on video or something. Yeah.
But the fact, like I said, the thing that scared me about it was that nobody turned him in for all that time because he was doing it for years and years.
Could have been though that he told them that she was consensual. That's probably what happened.
So, but I mean, still, you would think that even dudes that were like, "Nah, I don't really like that idea," just in case.
Yeah.
You'd think that somebody would have reported it, but nobody did. Nobody did.
Well, only some people accepted his offer. And the ones that accepted his offer were in on it. He probably told them, "Oh no, she's into it. I knock her out. We do this, and I show her the videotapes afterwards."
The fact that he found so many dudes that were willing to do that, like,
because he
the crap out of me.
If I remember correctly, he was recording it. Because he was recording it was part of the story. Like she watches the tapes after, so it's probably. They probably, okay, yeah.
And, like, I know some people do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's just that, I wouldn't even wait. I'm not into that, but it's like, I wouldn't even if I was, I don't want to wade into that quagmire, man, because it's like, it's so easy to bullshit.
Well, I guarantee you that those dudes never got charged.
I don't know what happened with that. I will probably look it up.
Probably because...
No, because there's a big thing about it going on right now. Okay. So it's like... Because it's a huge case.
I would think chances are the dudes thought she was consensual. That's what he told her. And then she watches it later. And fucking that... Meeting her when she's awake fucks up the fantasy. She has to not know you. That's where the eroticism
I kind of feel like that's just one titch away from, like, necrophilia.
Yeah.
Is what that is.
Yeah.
Like, you go one step further. I kind of feel like those dudes are on the spectrum toward necrophilia. That's what you're going
Well, they got those dudes, too.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And
that's, like, the next step. Necrophilia is here, and then that's that.
And they got dudes that do simulated necrophilia.
Yeah, I know.
They'll knock somebody out of either gender. Usually the person is, like, consensual, usually.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that, that Yorgos Lanthimos movies, Killing of a Sacred Deer. And the dude was a heart surgeon, and his wife, who was played by Nicole Kidman, their game was called General Anesthetic.
Yeah.
And he just liked her to pretend she was dead while he fucked her.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think from reading in between the lines that the guy who ran Propaganda Magazine, which is Gothic, was into that. Because he was always taking pictures of the fucking John Koviak and some of the other goth dudes kind of shirtless, and they were powdered like they were real pale. It looked like they were dead on a couple of the photo shoots that I saw.
Although it's hard to say because goths just look like that when they're alive.
And I think there was whole articles about
because that's your whole thing is you want to look super pale.
Yeah, like fake necrophilia stories and stuff. But they got guys that are into that.
I know, but the reason I brought that up was because it's kind of alarming. I mean, a serial killer by themselves is alarming.
Yeah.
But the fact that this one, who had some very, very fucked up proclivities, was able to find 3 dudes that went along with it and also seemed to enjoy it, even though they kind of denied it later.
I guarantee you.
Is kind of horrifying.
I guarantee you there's a lot of guys that fantasize about that shit, but they don't.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't actually do it.
Yeah. Well, see, that's exactly the point I'm making, is like, that scares me. That there's dudes going around with that in their head.
Yeah, people are scary.
And you don't know and it's like, if they met the wrong person, like this motherfucker, they could be convinced to do this kind of crap.
I think there are some people that are just real malleable that they'll get off on anything. That's another thing too. You just
and like
if
this is like
present it the right way, they'll do it.
Exactly. Which like I said, we've talked about killer couples and stuff like that before, whether it was like 2 male friends or like a romantic couple or whatever. And it's like in that dynamic, that always kind of freaks me out too. But this is that like times 2 because this is 4 guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He got 3 guys.
Yeah.
To do this depraved shit.
It was like a cult.
Yeah.
Look at what NXIVM cult did.
True.
They talked a bunch of women into getting dudes' fucking initials branded into him as part of a fucking and having sex with all the female cult people.
I mean,
they were paying
I don't know, man.
And getting them to starve themselves.
The whole cult mentality.
They loved the dude. They thought they thought it was a self-improvement.
The whole cult mentality is just I don't.
Yeah.
hopefully I just never... I just don't think I could be sucked into anything like that. Just because I'm so contrarian and I'm just so not a joiner. And I don't like any of that self-improvement bullshit. Yeah. I'm like, you don't know me, so how the fuck can you tell me how to improve myself? Fuck off. I'm just really cranky like that, so it's just like, I don't see how I could get... I mean, I know everybody could, like, if they came at you the right way, but...
When I'm studying Scientology, I also came across all the people that are experts in cult rehabilitation of people, and they all say the same thing. Cult members tend to be intelligent, have good imaginations, and they're altruistic, and they're idealistic. They think that they can... They always get them with the idea of, you can change the world for better. You can save the world. If you get a person that thinks that this group is going to save the world, you can get them to do anything.
But here's the thing.
And that's what Scientology is all about. They think they're helping.
But here's the thing.
Which is kind of like a form of fucking... When you think about it, though, it's a form of fucking... what do you call that? When you think real highly of yourself. Narcissism. Like, you can save the world. You're not going to save the world.
Well, what I was going to say is that... I mean, I consider myself an intelligent person. Yeah. I consider myself an altruistic person.
Yeah.
But I'm also, on the other side of that, super, super cynical. Yeah. And I don't have the balls to think that I could save the world.
Yeah.
So I think that... Because all of those qualities, intelligence, altruism, that's good. But I think you also have to have the narcissism
to have it,
to think that I could actually make a difference. Like, I'm not saying one person can't make it. Yes, it does happen every now and then.
You're not gonna save the
world.
But
most people, a single person is not going to save the world. And if you think that you can, then you can get sucked into all kind of nefarious
Well, they
shit.
say, well, all of us together, we can do it. And there's thousands of us. Even that. Look, here's the fucking thing a lot of people don't understand, you know what I mean? Because they don't read history. They're not taught history. All that Third Reich stuff was altruism. They thought they were saving the world from evil.
Well, that's how you get people to do horrible shit.
Yeah, you can't wipe out a fucking huge groups of people and murder millions of people, Russians and Jews, unless you think that you're doing the right thing. And they thought that these people were evil and they had to go.
Well, the first thing they do is dehumanize them. I mean, that's
they say
right in the playbook.
They're subhuman.
They're vermin.
They're diseased. They're fucking.
That's the first. If they do it the same every single time.
They're hurting us. They're making us bad. These people have to go. They're fucking incorrect. They're politically incorrect. They do the same thing. It's always that same thing. You dehumanize.
And if you can recognize that, then you won't fall for it.
Yeah. Whenever you start dehumanizing people, I'm ex-military and fucking, in the infantry. My whole thing was fucking anti-personnel, killing other fucking soldiers. Step one, you have to dehumanize the enemy, or you won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
You have to say these motherfuckers are evil. They fucking deserve it.
Yeah.
Dale Comstock, one of the best fucking mercenaries, owns his own company, his own mercenary company out in the fucking Philippines and shit. Worked for so many different countries, fucking killing people. But the thing is, before he'd take the job, he's like, fucking, what has this dude done? Why you want him dead? And they were talking about it. The client was talking about a dude in Afghanistan. And they're like, well, first of all, he's got a harem of about 8 little boys. He's like, okay, that's good enough. I'll do it. Yeah, because that's part of Afghan culture. Boy play. Dude had like 8 little boys following him around everywhere he went and fucking them. And that's all it takes. He's okay, yeah, I'll kill him. Yeah. Go check out Dale Comstock. Fucking motherfuckers are hardcore.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
you have to be able to dehumanize your enemies before you can do it.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying,
you may know human with them little
all
boys.
Kinds of people get sucked into cults.
Yeah.
But I think that there's also kind of a thing where people like to belong to something, or they like to feel like they're want to be a part of something bigger. Which, like I said, I don't have that, so it's what I mean. I don't have that emotion. So but like I said, altruism, all that stuff, that's not bad. But I think you also have to have the narcissism. Like you think, I'm going to be the one to change this. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. I would not have the fucking...
Well, you're describing every Scientologist.
Yeah, I know. Look, I worked with them.
Yeah.
Side by side every single day. I know what they're like.
Yep.
I can't hang.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like that. I'm like the opposite of narcissistic. Yeah. So it's just kind of, because I know I'm not important by any stretch of the imagination. And I kind of wish more people were like that. Like, not so much that you think that you're nothing, you're not worth anything.
It's that you don't have main character syndrome.
Yeah, you have to understand that it's like, in the grand scheme of things, you're not really that important. That doesn't mean you don't matter. You do.
Yeah.
But you're not really that important to the world at large, to the universe at large. You know, just kind of know your place, is all I'm saying.
To humble yourself, you got to remember that the dudes that actually changed the world, the ones that were remembered over thousands of years, weren't good. It was dudes like Genghis Khan. He gave birth to more people than anybody. The motherfucker was ruthless, Julius Caesar fucking conducted genocide against the fucking Germans, fucking killed all kinds of people. Not to say he was a bad guy, though. I still think he was pretty good. A lot of those guys, Genghis Khan, I probably would think he's all right, personally. But they were just part of the war machines. And they were the ones that actually fucking changed a lot of shit. So great men of history are not good men. No.
Well, it's kind of the same to a smaller extent. Like, why do we remember serial killers' names and not their victims' names?
And even like George Washington, great military leader, good man. Was he a psycho? Yeah, he kind of was. He knew what he was doing, that if he joined the revolution, he could get hanged. But if he fucking made it, he'd be a fucking hero. And he would fighting in the fucking French and Indian wars and everything, and he kept volunteering to do this over and over again. He was a high-functioning psychopath, if you ask me. But he believed in an independence of America, of the American colonies, which made him a traitor to the British Crown. They were traitors.
Yeah, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, depending on how you look at it. Because truth always has to do with the point of view. They were traitors. The British fucking still see them as traitors and terrorists.
Not so much now.
Yeah, but
they kind of joke about it.
Yeah. But they kind of were.
Well, from their point of view,
the American Revolution succeeded because fucking people who defied the revolution got tarred and feathered, and they burned down judges' houses and raped their women and shit. Crowds of people. It wasn't really this fucking real brave thing that was done on the battlefield. It was civilians fucking rioting and fucking killing judges and fucking raping their wives and shit. And the other judges would see that and go, "Oh, well, I guess I shouldn't side against the revolution. The British can't protect me, so yeah, I'm in with the revolution." And that's how you do it. It's been that's the way it's been since the dawn of man, is you go after people's families, so it all is a point of view, fucking, it was going to happen anyway. England couldn't control this place forever. There were too many of us, too far away.
Lori Day says Peoria is 10 minutes from me. Well,
yeah,
one of these motherfuckers lives there, as far as I know. So,
yeah,
watch your ass. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so I guess this is enough on you. Are you hungry? I'll make us something to eat.
Yeah, I'm still laughing about Victor's thing about the chick on TikTok catching her boyfriend blowing his friend.
Yeah,
transferring
that's a good
masculine
story.
energy.
I wonder if that's actually true, or if that was another story that was staged. Because a lot of shit on TikTok is staged.
Well, yeah.
It's getting more and more obvious.
That'd be super funny if, like, I caught somebody blowing you and they were like, "We're just transferring masculine." I'm just like, "Why didn't you videotape that? Send it to me."
Yeah.
You know how we do. All right, so we are going to wrap up the show for this evening. It's getting kind of late for us. It's 10:30 p.m., and I am starving. I've had one tiny sandwich today, and that's about it. Oh, and I had some ice cream, too, like a long time ago. But yeah, I'm, like, really, really hungry. All right. So we will be back on Friday for the Sidetrack show, which is always super fun. We'll have some drinks and just talk about bullshit, no topic, if you're new here. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. Thank you for hanging out with us this evening. Thank you for your super chats. And we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.